Chapter 144. The legendary Hell Masha territory was a dangerous place, with countless dangers, but as far as Yi Shiwen was concerned, it actually did not matter because by virtue of the power of Tianyuan Mirror, as long as Yi Shiwen didn't encounter truth-level devils, all other devils would have to face the restraining effect of Tianyuan Mirror. Then it would be easy for Yi Shiwen to behead them. Along with a large number of Xiantian 7th stage devils, a lot of formidable devils of Xiantian 8th stage devils were also killed by Yi Shiwen. Then with the help of Tianyuan Mirror, he absorbed their Jingqi and finally reached the peak saturation point of Xiantian 4th stage. Now he was almost going to break through to the Xiantian 5th stage. Bang! Yi Ziwen's fist rumbled, and with a bang, an Azura devil at the Xiantian 7th stage was blasted to smithereens. However, just before his death, there was an incredible look in his eyes, and it seemed as if he couldn't accept that he was going to die like this. After all, he was an Azura of the Xiantian 7th stage, and was still going to be killed by a human like Yi Shiwen who was merely at the peak of Xiantian 4th stage. It was simply a great insult and shameful. Suddenly, a terrifying Quanjin dropped down from the sky and blasted towards Yi Shiwen. This fist attack was quite overbearing and strange, as if it was an attack from a flying immortal in the sky and instantly approached Yi Shiwen, without giving any warning. Yi Shiwen was simply too late to dodge, and suffered this fist attack. Pooh! Yi Shiwen spouted blood and looked up but saw nothing but void. And then suddenly, the figure of an Azura gradually took shape in midair. It was a young Azura devil, and like other Azura devils, he looked quite ugly, but unlike others that Yi Shiwen had seen and beheaded so far, this one possessed no Nobliki, and just from a glance, Yi Shiwen understood that this young Azura devil belonged to the noble class of Azura clan. Yi Shiwen felt a bit uncomfortable when he sensed the breath of this young Azura devil, because until now he never felt such a formidable breath from an Azura, and even the Azura devil of Xiantian 8th stage, with whom Yi Shiwen had to struggle a bit, few days ago, was not a match for this young Azura. This young Azura devil's cultivation was not very high, but his strength was certainly very high. And even if he had not yet entered into the Xiantian 9th stage, but perhaps was also not far away from attaining it. Fallen, the Azura have really fallen. Yi Mo appeared on the top of Yi Ziwen's shoulder and said, although Azura race and Great Azura race are quite similar, but the two sides never allowed interracial marriages since the ancient times. Azura are considered as ordinary civilians, but the Great Azura are actually counted among the nobility in the devil world. The rules of Azura clan strictly prohibit interracial marriages between members of Azura clan and Great Azura clan, and there has been no example of such for thousands of years, but who would have thought that one would actually appear here? You mean he is a hybrid? Yi Shiwen said. Yes, the Azura blood seems to run quite strongly in his body. He should be second generation of hybrid Azura race. Yi Mo said. It is quite impossible for most Azura devils to possess Nobliki, and that's why they have been slaves of Great Azura clan for generations after generations. Also, a Great Azura devil child is already in the truth realm from birth. However, that is not the case with the hybrids of the two races, so it's good news for you that this young Azura is not a genuine Great Azura, otherwise you will die miserably. Human, I am paying attention to you for a long time, that young Azura said. He couldn't sense the presence of Yi Mo, because if Yi Mo desired, then only Yi Shiwen could see it while others couldn't. The young Azura devil grasped his hand and grabbed a stick from the void. This stick's whole body was black in color, and was actually the legendary Azura stick. Generally, Azura devils used their own bodies as weapons, but there were also others who did not like to use their own bodies as weapons and preferred to use Azura stick, which was a giant mighty weapon, and once brandished, it could cause the heavens to fall and ground to rend. You insolent human, actually dared to strike the people of this young lord's territory. Today you will have to wash away your sins with your own blood. The young Azura devil said in a loud voice. I see that you are a strong master, so if you commit suicide, then I'll leave your entire corpse intact and won't feed it to those lowly demon beasts. You think you are capable enough to force me to commit suicide? A smile appeared on Yi Ziwen's face. You are just a hybrid. In his previous life, interracial breeding was very popular on Earth, but that was not the case here, because in Wuxia, the act of interracial breeding and giving birth to hybrids often meant tragedy. The general thought process in this world didn't accept it, because according to the people of this world, pure blood meant more strength and purity. Human, you are courting death. I will extract your spirit, and bake it in fire till you are frightened out of your wits. The young Azura devil finally could not maintain his calm because Yi Shiwen had poked his sore spot. Right after hearing the words of Yi Shiwen, immediately, a fierce and grim look appeared on his face and he shouted crazily. He would never be able to forget the pain of being a hybrid, and because this stain will forever stay on his existence. Although thanks to being a hybrid he received more strength compared to other Azura devils, but at the same time, his strength was far worse than the genuine Great Azura clan. In fact, his current strength was even less than the newborn babies of Great Azura clan. And this inferiority complex had deeply rooted itself in his heart, causing him to possess very low self-esteem. The young Azura obviously hated Yi Shiwen from the depth of his heart. Otherwise he would never have said such words, because torturing the opposite party was several folds worse and brutal compared to killing them. He would not talk about torturing Yi Shiwen if he didn't bear a bitter hatred for him. You humans are really nasty and hateful. You actually treat our Azura clan as test subjects in this small dimension. And do you think that our Azura clan doesn't know how to fight back? My father has already taken command of the Azura clan, and under his leadership, we will completely annihilate you abominable human beings. We have also united the other devil clans, and together, we will defeat you humans and make this small world dominate your world. The young Azura sneered again and again. But first, I'll kill you and gain merit. After that, I will command a side army in the future. Although the founder of Yuan School had captured Masha territory, but he had not destroyed the devils still living in this small world. Rather, he decided to use these devils as test subjects to give battle experience to his disciples. However, since then, the devil race of this small world had constantly tried to counterattack on Wuxia, while using Yuan School as a springboard to dominate the whole world. Even though you are nothing but a waste, your courage is quite impressive. Yi Shiwen said, but you must know that you have been held captives in this small world by the founder of our Yuan School. In order to give experience to the disciples of Yuan School, you are no different than a pig, ready to be slaughtered anytime, but you still want to counterattack? You are really courting death. It's you who is courting death. The young Azura devil suddenly got furious, because Yi Shiwen's attitude suddenly and thoroughly angered him. The black giant stick danced in his hand, while the entire space began to fluctuate, producing a wild and loud shrieking sound. This Azura stick was also called Morning Staff, and according to the rumors, under the 9 layers of Netherland, there was Fengdu Hell, and after a human died, his soul entered the hell to face the trial for his sins, while the messengers of legendary hell used Morning Staff to punish them. It was said that the so-called Azura stick was actually an imitation of Morning Staff itself, though the source of this rumor was quite remote in the past. When Yemo had described about Azura race to Yi Shiwen, it had also mentioned about this horrifying legend to him. The legend of hell was same in all worlds, maybe some hearsays were slightly different, but roughly the same. In Yi Shiwen's previous life on the earth, he had also heard about the legendary hell on earth. And even in Wuxia, there was also a legend of hell. However, the legends would always be legends. No one knew whether the legendary hell actually existed or not. After all, even the formidable emperor-ranked figures could not reverse death to come back and confirm the existence of the legendary hell. According to what Yemo informed Yi Shiwen, throughout the entire heaven and earth, the god was responsible for governing the world of the living, and Yama, king of hell, was in charge of governing the world of the dead. However, this was just a hearsay that seemed to have spread countless years ago, and even after so many years had already passed, it still seemed to spread. Even the previous master of Yemo was never able to confirm the existence of the legendary hell. He had rummaged through numerous books and shuttled back and forth through many worlds, but still couldn't discover the existence of hell, as if it existed only in legends. When Yi Shiwen heard about this, he almost felt intimidated from this previous master of Yemo. The legendary Devil King was definitely a madman. He actually wanted to lead an expedition from Devil World to the legendary hell, in order to include hell under the control of Devil World. This Devil King was absolutely a lunatic. He was confident of his own strength to the point of thinking that he was invincible. and actually led an expedition to 10,000 worlds, because rather than being the sovereign king of Devil World, he wanted to become the ruler of 10,000 worlds, in order to become the most distinguished and under the sun. Regarding the Azura stick of Azura clan, it was said that many years ago, the founder of Azura clan once fought with a supreme master in hell, and the battle was disastrous, and after the battle was over, the founder of Azura clan used the other party's morning staff as a basis to create an Azura stick and made it more suitable for Azura clan. This Azura stick was the only kind of weapon used by Azura clan, who were famous for using their invincible bodies as weapons. According to Yemo, when the Azura Devil King fought with that Supreme Master, he suffered a loss just because he was using his own great Azura body as weapon. So he decided to imitate the morning staff and created an Azura stick. Although it was only an imitation, but these things happened so long ago that no one could guess their origin. And except Yemo, an old monster-type extraordinary character, no one knew about this secret. To the present, even the devils of Azura race thought that Azura stick was actually an invention of their own ancestors, and had been passed down to them generation after generation. Under the influence of Azura stick, suddenly, the world changed its color, and also produced a shrieking and wild howling sound, which seemed very sad and shrill, enough to scare a timid person to death. Azura stick was struck horizontally and instantly rushed in front of Yi Shiwen, and it seemed as if it would pound on his head and burst his brains. Moreover, the most frightening thing was that Yi Shiwen actually felt as if his own body was being suppressed, and it was like his soul was being sucked out of his. The morning staff was used by the messengers of hell themselves, and its functions were to call the soul of deceased and manage these souls in hell. Even the great Azura Devil King was unable to escape from the frightening effects of morning staff, while Azura stick was an imitation of morning staff itself, so it naturally had the properties of morning staff. Chapter 145. Successive breakthroughs. At that moment, Yi Shiwen had a feeling that his soul was being sucked out of his body, which completely left him in a trace-like state. But in a flash, Azura stick suddenly arrived in front of him, and if it was plugged directly into his head, then his brains would definitely burst out. The strength of a master at the peak Xiantian 8th stage completely released out and created ripples in the space. Then suddenly, the intermittent waves of fluctuating blood-red light instantly released out of the Tianyuan mirror inside the body of Yi Shiwen. The might of these scarlet fluctuating light waves was just like that of an emperor, which immediately made that young Azura devil to have an impulse to prostrate on the ground, and this feeling deeply immersed in its bones, it a feeling to prostrate in front of the ruler of 10,000 worlds, making him realize that he was actually a slave, looking at its master, and this feeling caused an unusual discomfort in his heart. The young Azura devil actually hesitated for a moment. After all, he was of noble descent of Azura clan, one of 8 royal clans of Devil World. Then how could he have such a humiliating feeling of being a slave? And this feeling had also permeated deep in his bone marrow. He was confused, just what was happening to him. Taking advantage of this time, Yi Shiwen recovered and instantly pulled out a long blade, then fiercely chopped out towards the young Azura. Boom! A terrifying blast wave instantly spread and engulfed the surrounding area, while at this time, Yi Shiwen continually retreated a few steps. A cruel expression appeared on the face of that Azura as he took advantage of this opportunity to attack Yi Shiwen. Stop, you lowly hybrid Azura. Don't tell me you actually think of attacking the great Devil King and ruler of 10,000 worlds. And this time, Yemo suddenly appeared and shouted loudly, which immediately shook the spirit of that Azura devil, and forced him to kneel down on the ground, because he felt that he was not eligible to stand in front of such a great figure. Taking advantage of the pause of that Azura devil, Yi Shiwen regrouped the Zhenyuan to prepare for his next attack, and once again chopped out a terrifying blade light towards the Azura devil. The blade light severely struck into the huge body of the Azura devil, and since his body was also pressed down by the blood-red light, so he did not have the means to display his full strength. This made him confused and abnormally aggrieved, because looking at his own strength, he knew that he possessed strength close to the masters of Xiantian 9th stage, but now he could only display the strength of below Xiantian 7th stage. And this was all because of this damn human. This was actually a spiritual shackle, a very horrifying spiritual coercion. He had heard about some of the mythical figures in the legends of his clan, and this coercion could be achieved by anyone regardless of the race, which was quite bizarre because it required for the person to achieve a certain level, and he was just unable to think that a human was able to reach this level, and was also using spiritual shackle on him. So now, the young Azura knew perfectly well that this human was very frightening and relying just on his own strength. He did not stand a chance against him. The young Azura devil tried his best to resist, but in a flash, the terrifying Peerless might ruptured in his body. Pooh! The young Azura suddenly spouted a mouthful of blood, and then suddenly rushed all the way back to escape from the attacks of Yi Shiwen. Hidden dragon rises from the abyss. Immediately, Yi Shiwen shot his palm and a coiling dragon instantly congealed, roared loudly, and the whole atmosphere slightly changed under the imposing noble aura of this dragon, while its long body disappeared into a streamer and instantly rushed towards the young Azura devil. Smack! The young Azura firmly kept his one foot on the ground and stood firmly while his Azura stick was instantly knocked down. Boom! The entire space vibrated and intense energy shock waves instantly spread in the surrounding area. The huge body of Azura devil instantly flew upside down, and he spouted mouthful of blood. He was cursing this human in his heart and was very much aggrieved. After all, he was obviously much stronger than this human, but was still completely suppressed by him to death. This feeling really made him quite depressed. He was at the peak of Xiantian 8th stage, and was only a small step away from entering into the Xiantian 9th stage. And after that he could become a major Azura existence, but he was still unable to defeat a mere human. He just couldn't accept this. The young Azura devil was very unwilling, but Yi Shiwen's offensives continued to rumble in his body, and he almost could not resist this time, because his body was suppressed by a terrifying coercion, and he could hardly resist. It seemed like today, he encountered his natural predator. It was just like meeting his life's owner. At last, he could no longer resist and was directly split in half by Yi Ziwen's long blade, and the Jingqi continuously transferred from his whole body into the body of Yi Shiwen. And at this point, Yi Shiwen felt that his own inner state barrier had finally begun to loosen up. Yi Shiwen sat on the ground and began to prepare for a breakthrough. This was going to be a very important breakthrough for him. The Jingqi of a master at the peak of Xiantian 8th stage was very huge, and was also enough to support Yi Shiwen in having a complete breakthrough. At this time, above Yi Ziwen's head, the Tianyuan mirror started spinning around, and the blood-red light released from its surface formed a red curtain of light around Yi Ziwen's body in order to protect him while he was having the breakthrough. Yi Shiwen felt that the Zhen Yuan began to roll and boil up within his body, and the enormous strength of these forces, boiling up inside his body, caused his hair to fly upwards, while his own vitality surged up along with his inner strength. Only in a moment his breath instantly had a breakthrough, and under the driving force of Zhen Yuan, the inner realm of Yi Ziwen's cultivation finally collapsed, and he finally stepped from Xiantian 4th stage straight into the Xiantian 5th stage. However, there was not the slightest sign of exhaustion of Jingqi in Yi Ziwen's body. The Jingqi of a master at the peak of Xiantian 8th stage was very large in amount and truly vigorous, and it not only helped him in having a breakthrough from Xiantian 4th stage to 5th stage, it also continued to push him towards the peak of the Xiantian 5th stage. Under the nourishment of this massive Jingqi, soon, Yi Shiwen successfully and smoothly reached the peak of Xiantian 5th stage. But after breaking through to the peak of Xiantian 5th stage, Yi Shiwen did not stop and immediately took out a He Dan and swallowed it down. The essence of He Dan surged out from the drug and started flowing into his limbs and bones, allowing his inner realm, which seemed to have consolidated a moment ago, to have signs of yet another breakthrough. As far as the biggest obstacle between Xiantian 5th stage and Xiantian 6th stage was concerned, it was actually the conversion phase of Zhenqi into Zhen Yuan, but Yi Shiwen had already cleared this phase by completely transforming Zhen Yuan in his body, so for him, this stage was simply not an obstacle anymore. By relying on the promotive effects of He Dan, Yi Shiwen once again had a breakthrough and directly stepped into the Xiantian 6th stage. Boom! An incredible imposing aura erupted from his body, and he opened his eyes all of a sudden. Chapter 146, Xiantian 7th Peak. Yi Zaiwen's imposing aura rose dramatically, and his cultivation level soared at terrifying speed, and rushed all the way to the Xiantian 6th stage. But Yi Shiwen did not stop and immediately took out a bright red fruit from his storage ring. It was the Blood Yuan fruit. This is a pretty good thing, but it is best to wait and use it when you break through from the Xiantian 8th stage to the Xiantian 9th stage. It will save you a considerably large amount of painstaking effort at that time. Yi Mo said. It's a pity that you are taking it now. I know that its effects would certainly be biggest if I take it at the time of breaking from Xiantian 8 stage, but I cannot wait for that time because Luo Yifun's lackeys are certainly looking for my whereabouts, and although this Masha territory is quite big, but they will find me sooner or later. Yi Shiwen said. Before they find me, I must enhance my strength to such a state that I can protect myself. At present, when Yi Zaiwen's cultivation broke through to enter into the Xiantian 5th stage, and later to the Xiantian 6th stage, his fighting strength also skyrocketed to a great extent. Initially, he was able to easily defeat the masters of Xiantian 6th stage, and could contend with ordinary masters of Xiantian 7th stage. But now after successive breakthroughs, his fighting strength had definitely become comparable to a master of Xiantian 9th stage. However, this was not enough because this time, in addition to inner seed disciples, even the seeds among the core disciples had come to Masha territory. And almost all of these seed core disciples were already in the Xiantian Great Realm, and even the weakest among them was at the peak of Xiantian 9th stage. Although all of these seed core disciples might not be hostile to Yi Shiwen, but as long as there was even one or two, for Yi Shiwen, that would be fatal. At his current cultivation, he could at most compete with the ordinary master of Xiantian 9th stage, but he still wasn't a match for the masters at the peak of Xiantian 9th stage and Xiantian Great Realm, and while facing them, it would only be a dead end for him. Yi Shiwen must enhance his cultivation level once again, and step into the next stage. After consuming Blood Yuan fruit, his fighting strength would increase once again to a new level, enough to sweep away even the core disciples of Xiantian Great Realm. At that time, if Luo Yifun personally didn't come into action, then no one else would be Yi Zaiwen's opponent, and then he would only need to avoid just one person, Luo Yifun, because as far as other people were concerned, he certainly didn't care, and it would naturally be simple to escape from just one man. Indeed, Yi Mo nodded and was very much satisfied in his heart from the decisive attitude of Yi Shiwen. A lot of people would have stayed confused and stuck, unable to choose between long-term interests and immediate interests, as this was really a difficult choice and could have blinded them, making them unable to make the right decision. However, if thought with calm mind, if they were dead then there would be no future left to fulfill the long-term interests. The truth was so simple, but not many people could have reached such a decision, and so quickly like Yi Shiwen. This time, I must make that Luo Yifun understand the pain of losing his dear ones. Yi Shiwen smiled in a strange manner. This time, during the seed disciple competition, inner disciples failed to pose a threat to Yi Shiwen, and now Yi Shiwen was the chief inner seed disciples himself, and Luo Yifun obviously knew about this, so he should have chosen core disciples to do the job, and not just ordinary core disciples. The ones who came to Masha territory were elites among the elites. Almost all of them were in the Xiantian Great Realm. Some core disciples were at Xiantian 9th peak, but their strength was also almost comparable to that of the core disciples of Xiantian Great Realm. The masters of this level could set foot in the Truth Realm at any time, and the ambitious ones would want to create their own factions, which would ultimately go down in the history, or even compete for the leading position in the sect. Unless they had already joined someone else's faction a long time ago, or else at this level, very few would go to join someone else's faction, because at this level of strength, even on their own, they could easily create a strong enough faction in a Yuan school. Then why would they become lackeys of someone else? Expecting various theories in the comment section, tongue sticking out. Therefore, Luo Yifun should have worked hard and put a lot of effort and energy in cultivating these seed-level core disciples, as they were not the same as those inner disciples, because if the case of inner disciples was considered, on the ranking list of inner seed disciples, almost every year, a large number of inner disciples would step into the Xiantian 6th stage, thereby departing from this list, but when the ranking list of core disciples was taken into consideration. It would take several years for someone to leave that list, because for many people, it could be said that promotion from the Xiantian 5th stage to Xiantian 6th stage was comparatively simple, especially when compared to the promotion from Xiantian Great Realm to the Truth Realm. And this was just because the breakthrough to the Truth Realm was not a simple matter, which was obvious from the fact that there were more than 100 seed core disciples, and not even one was able to enter into the Truth Realm in the past 3 or 4 years. And since no one was going up, and it was natural that nobody had left this list. So it was also normal if this list did not change for several years. In fact, it happened before when the list didn't change for over a decade, because no one was able to break into the Truth Realm. And this was the reason why the list generally changed only when these seed core disciples got older, and eventually had to leave the sect, because after reaching the age of 150 years, their blood began to decline, their strengths also declined, and some people were often kicked outside the seed core disciples rankings list, while others would take the initiative to leave on their own accord. Then they would go and become elders or ancestors of the subschools. However, their decision was understandable, because after reaching the age of more than 150 years, it was very difficult to have a breakthrough and enter into the Truth Realm. And some of them also realized that they didn't have the talent to achieve the Truth Realm, so it was pointless to stay in the sect. So, if Yi Shiwen killed several core disciple subordinates of Luo Yifan, then that would completely cut off Luo Yifan's influence, which was enough to make him feel the pain of losing dear ones. Yi Shiwen immediately started eating the blood yuan fruit, and after taking full dose of bright red blood yuan fruit, the essence of the fruit quickly turned into a heat flow and started circulating throughout his body. His inner realm, that had already consolidated a moment ago at the Xiantian 6th stage, began to loosen up again, and compared to He Dan, the efficacy of blood yuan fruit was much more overbearing, and it instantly filled his entire body with intense heat. His complexion started to turn red, and if someone looked at him from afar, he would simply look like a blood-red person. Without the slightest hesitation, Yi Shiwen quickly mobilized Zhen Yuan in his body, and began to hastily digest and assimilate the essence of blood yuan fruit within his body. The efficacy of the fruit started melting and assimilating in his body, while Yi Shiwen also started practicing tyrant body technique. As he was crazily absorbing this efficacy in his body, an intermittent burst of crackling sounds transmitted from his body, just like the firecrackers show on a new year. As his body continued to absorb the drug, it also started to transform simultaneously. The spirit stones also began to frantically burn inside his storage ring, while inside the mysterious space in his mind, the Deshang realm of second layer of Tyrant's body technique had already started to revolve frantically, and the third layer finally began to take shape and revealed its complete appearance to Yi Shiwen. A total of 1,000 spirit stones were burned at a crazily fast speed. Only Yi Shiwen was capable of crazily burning so many spirit stones at such a fast speed. And when such a large number of spirit stones were burned, Yi Shiwen was able to completely estimate the third layer of Tyrant body technique, and by taking advantage of spirit stones and strength of blood yuan fruit, he also managed to have a breakthrough to the third layer of Tyrant body technique. Yi Ziwen's imposing aura continued to break through from Xiantian 6th stage to intermediate Xiantian 6th stage, then from intermediate Xiantian 6th stage to late Xiantian 6th stage, Xiantian 6th peak, Xiantian 7th stage, intermediate Xiantian 7th stage, late Xiantian 7th stage, and finally to Xiantian 7th peak. Yi Ziwen's cultivation madly rushed all the way to the peak of Xiantian 7th stage, then finally stopped. He was also able to gain the highest level of knowledge about the third layer of Tyrant body technique, just like he had achieved the highest knowledge of Divine Dragon flings its tail, which also increased his might far more than before. Yi Shiwen had Tianyuan mirror to cover up all the fluctuations of his breath, otherwise such big movements accompanied with his breakthroughs would have attracted many devils. But now that he had Tianyuan mirror, he simply was not afraid because Tianyuan mirror was the nemesis of those devils. And even when facing truth-level devils, as long as it was not a peerless devil like that great devil leader, who had fought with Qi Fifan, using the restraining effect of Tianyuan mirror on the devils, even if it was a truth-level devil, Yi Shiwen was confident to take them on. And as far as other devils below truth level were considered, he simply didn't consider them as his opponents. After reaching the peak of Xiantian's 7th peak, his fighting strength simply skyrocketed. And now, even masters of Xiantian Great Realm were not his match anymore. Let's go. Yi Shiwen got up and said. He stayed in this place for a whole day and night, but this time, the breakthrough didn't take too long thanks to Blood Yuan Fruit and He Dan. Yi Shiwen used Celestial Step and rushed towards the depths of Ma Shi territory. And it seemed as if he was taking a stroll in a relaxed manner, however his form flickered, and in the short time, he simply vanished in the line of sight. Far away, an army of over 1,000 great devils, under the leadership of a formidable great devil, was advancing towards a team of several disciples of Yi Yuan school. Their loud battle cries could be heard from far away, and sand was billowing from their advancement, while their loud roars were heart-shaking. Great Devil Army. Above a mountain peak, Yi Shiwen used his torch-like vision and saw that this army was actually composed of great devils, and each of them were at least at Xiantian 5th stage, and above, which was extremely frightening. Perhaps, except the royal blood guards of Great Yu State's royal clan, no other army could last in front of this great devil army. This is the first time that Yi Shiwen had seen a regular army of devils, because the cases were entirely different in Ma Shi territory and Huanma territory. Earlier, in the Huanma territory, the Huanma devils had been caught and locked up inside by the founder of Yi Yuan school, so they never really had their own heritage, so they couldn't be compared with the devils of Ma Shi territory. This regular army was simply a nightmare for the idle warriors who weren't experienced in army battles. The existence of this army explained that there was a possibility of a kingdom of devil race in the depths of Ma Shi territory, perhaps also more than one. So earlier, what that young Azura said about this place being his territory was true, then there should be a kingdom of Azura clan. This great devil army was different from that flagitious great devil that Yi Shiwen had beheaded earlier. Although they seemed equally flagitious and brutal, but a lot more disciplined and experienced. And it was obvious that this great devil army had been drilled for a long time and possessed huge battle experience. Yi Shiwen looked again and saw a slender figure that seemed exceptionally familiar among the besieged disciples of Yi Yuan school. It was Hua Menghan. Chapter 147. Rescue indeed, it was really Hua Menghan. Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes because he did not expect to see Hua Menghan, and he quickly realized that Hua Menghan actually turned out to be a seed-level core disciple. No wonder she had so much face, and was able to mediate between Qianyu faction and senior factions by sending Jing Yannan. These days, one thing after another came up and Yi Shiwen didn't have time to express his gratitude to her. But now he unexpectedly met her here, in Ma Shi territory. Besides Hua Menghan, Yi Shiwen also saw a few familiar people whom he had already met before, and they were none other than Hu Yanghang and Jing Yannan. It was not a surprise that they were also seed-level core disciples, and in addition to the two of them, there was a beautiful girl, who appeared to be of same age as Hua Menghan, in a bright long skirt. Her posture was swaying as the sword was dancing in her hand, and each time her sword moved, a great devil was beheaded. There was also a grandiose man among them. His broadsword was dancing and giving rise to fierce winds. And these devils simply had no way to come close to his body. At this time, although they had been besieged by the great devil army, but the situation was not really too dangerous. After all these 5 masters were considered elites among the elites, and each one of them possessed outstanding strength, far more than the core disciples at the same cultivation level. Not to mention, even if these great devils were flagitious and incomparably brutal, and possessed high cultivation levels, but they were still considered as cannon fodder level existence. In the devil race, and very few of them had practiced power techniques, and many of which were crude techniques, so it was certain that they were not the opponents of Hua Menghan and other seed-level core disciples. There was a difference of heaven and earth between the two sides when martial arts practice was taken into consideration. This was the difference between the elites and the masses. However, if the two sides were to fight a prolonged battle, then the strength of Hua Menghan and the others would soon be consumed, because in this situation, the bigger army implied greater might even if the great devils were not elites, because the size of army could be increased but the fighting strength of these elites couldn't be enhanced. However, after the great devil commander joined the battle, Hua Minghan and other core disciples soon fell under the wind. He was obviously stronger than the master of Xiantian Great Realm, and should have entered half a step into the truth realm. And just by having the strength equivalent to a master of half-step truth level, this great devil commander was dominating on these 5 core seed disciples who were apparently all in the Xiantian Great Realm. It was obvious that their combined strength was also inferior to the strength of Great Devil Commander, causing them to suddenly fall under the wind. When Yi Shiwen saw the Great Devil Commander, suddenly, his blood started to boil up. This Great Devil Commander was a half-step truth level existence, and looking at Yi Ziwen's current strength, Great Devil Commander was truly his opponent, because right now, although Yi Shiwen was at the peak of Xiantian 7th stage, but his fighting strength was equivalent to a master of half-step truth realm, which was far more than the strength of Xiantian Great Realm masters. In short, this Great Devil Commander was the best opponent for him. This Great Devil Commander should prove the best opponent at my current strength. Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes and said, "Wait here and control the Tianyuan mirror. Do not let it release its restraining powers. I want to test my true strength." If Tianyuan mirror released its suppression, then perhaps, the Great Devil Commander would quickly die at the hands of Yi Shiwen. And right now, this wasn't Yi Ziwen's main goal. No problem, Yemo said. Although he would often help Yi Shiwen in suppressing those devils so Yi Shiwen could easily behead them, but that was only a means to help in his fast growth. Everybody would stand for a little longer. I have sent a distress signal, and soon, someone should come to our rescue. Jing Yannan exclaimed to raise the morale of other 5 disciples, but they were fighting silently, because they were elites and understood to keep their minds calm and focused. Especially, Hua Menghan and the grandiose man with broadsword were collaborating to fight the Great Devil Commander, but they were feeling enormous pressure and horrifying strength of a half-step true master, and it could be said that to a certain extent, he already possessed some of the strength of a truth-level master. Even if 2 people were together fighting with him, they weren't the slightest relaxed. It was obvious that Great Devil Commander was more familiar with the art of war, and at this time, this was also making them feel distressed and powerless in front of him. Then suddenly a long and loud howling sound came from far away, and it gradually came closer and closer. Moreover, it was so fast that in a blink of an eye, it arrived at the scene, and one could guess the insane speed of the approaching person just from hearing the howling sound, which was simply like the lightning that arrived in the vicinity in a flash. Suddenly, a flash instantly crashed into the Great Devil Army, and even this drilled and experienced Great Devil Army was simply not the match of this blade light which simply pierced through them, collapsing one after another, and the weak Great Devils that came in the range of this attack instantly died or got severely wounded. "Who is that?" Great Devil Commander suddenly roared, then immediately stopped fighting with Hua Menghan and the grandiose man, because in his heart, these humans did not pose a threat to him, and under his army's encirclement, these damn lowly humans would eventually have to die. The blade light crossed through the Great Devil Army and immediately and fiercely rushed toward the Great Devil Commander. Boom! A huge explosion occurred, and a mushroom cloud appeared on the spot. This was now the battle between 2 half-step true masters, although they only possessed a part of the total strength of a true master. But masters of Xiantian Great Realm weren't capable of producing such an atomic bomb-like explosion, and it was simply impossible for masters of Xiantian 9th peak. The flash of light dissipated and revealed the silhouette of a figure. When Hua Menghan saw this figure, a surprised look immediately appeared on her face, because that person was none other than Yi Shiwen. She never thought that in such a short amount of time, Yi Shiwen would actually become so formidable. She remembered that the first time she saw him, he was just at the Hotian realm, and at that time, she felt grateful to him for saving her life, but she thought that it would end at this. After all, he was only a Hotian realm warrior, and even if he managed to step into the Xiantian realm in the future, it was still most unlikely that they would ever intersect each other's path in this lifetime. However, all of this changed in less than 1 year, when Yi Ziwen's strength had a rapid development, and when she saw him again, he was already a master of the Xiantian realm, and was also considered the leader of younger generation of his sub-school, and later he also became the leader of new disciples. The second time, she heard about him when Qianyu faction was in trouble, And at that time, she used her influence to buy some time for Qianyu faction, but she did not hold any hope for them to win. She just wanted to do something to help Yi Shiwen, but not on a grand scale, otherwise it could lead to him becoming an eyesore in the eyes of a lot of people. But she did not expect that he would actually win the battle against Mo Han and lead to the smooth establishment of Qianyu faction. But she again received news about Yi Shiwen becoming the chief inner seed disciple. Moreover, this time, it was a recognition that could not be questioned or argued upon by anyone. Although now he was merely the chief inner seed disciple, but in a major sect like Yiyuan school, becoming a chief was like a seat of honor, because even if he was only the chief of inner disciples, but this status could only be obtained by 1 in a million disciples and required both talent and formidable strength. This should be the third time she saw Yi Shiwen, but now, he was no longer that skinny teenager whom she met the first time, and had actually grown up into a fine youth. The youth who once saved her life had just now rushed straight into the Great Devil Army, and not just that, he went straight for the Great Devil Commander, an existence that she and other masters couldn't take on together. This rapid transformation was simply unbelievable. The one who was more baffled than Hua Menghan was actually Hu Yanghang. He certainly remembered Yi Shiwen, but in his memory, Yi Shiwen was simply nothing and could only be regarded as a little guy, a nasty bug, and for him, so long as he wanted, crushing a petty bug like Yi Shiwen was very convenient. But now, he couldn't believe his eyes when he saw that a bug like Yi Shiwen had actually grown so formidable. Immediately, a strong killing intent boiled up in his heart. An astonished look appeared on the face of Jing Yannan when he looked at the formidable figure of Yi Shiwen. In such a short time, the young boy, who at that time had especially come forward to greet him, actually turned into such a fierce master? He was now sure that he was not wrong about Yi Ziwen's future growth. Dark green clothes, that long blade and a proud demeanor. In the end, just what kind of experience did he go through that caused his cultivation to increase to such outrageous proportions? Everyone was astonished at the sudden arrival of Yi Shiwen, but he didn't care and directly engaged in fighting with the Great Devil Commander. Damn you, you lowly human, you dare to treat out Great Devil race as hunting objects. You are courting death. The Great Devil Commander shouted in an angry voice, and his words seemed like they were thundering again and again, while an endless amount of machi emerged out of the giant spear in his hands and instantly filled the entire surrounding space. Devil sweeps the universe. The endless amount of machi transformed into countless spears made up of spurki, and seemed like hiding the sky and covering the earth, and swept straight towards Yi Shiwen. The long blade flashed in the hand of Yi Shiwen, and a bright blade light was instantly chopped out, displaying the creative concept of Yi Ziwen's blade skill. And it seemed as if a diagram of a round bright moon was descending and suppressing towards the Great Devil Commander. Suddenly, along with a dazzling glare, Vladiki severely collided with the several spears. An energy wave spread in all directions like mighty ocean waves and completely swept away some of the Great Devil soldiers. In the frenzy of raging energy waves, these Great Devils simply turned into flying ashes. At that moment, standing in front of Yi Shiwen, the Great Devil Commander felt a strange feeling from Yi Ziwen's body, which suddenly increased his palpitations, although this feeling was very mild, but it made him feel very unpleasant, as if he was standing in front of Sovereign King. However, at this time, he had no time to think about why was he getting such a feeling and suddenly shouted, "Damn human, go to hell! Devil splits the vast sky!" The giant spear danced in his hands, and a terrifying spurky spread in the sky, and it seemed as if it was completely splitting the atmosphere. And this sight was quite overwhelming. Chapter 148. Great Devil Commander beheaded. Devil splits the vast sky. The giant spear danced in his hands, and a terrifying spurky spread in the sky, and it seemed as if it was completely splitting the atmosphere and blotting the sky. This sight was quite overwhelming. This spurky was incomparably terrifying and produced a sharp piercing sound, as if all other sounds had completely vanished from the atmosphere, leaving only the dreadful sound of spears rushing through the sky. Full moon beheader! Yi Shiwen shouted, and suddenly, his appearance looked like the lightning itself, and using just his arm, he instantly chopped out Vladiki, which instantly turned into a diagram of a full moon and pressed down from above just like the Mount Tai. The layer upon layer of terrifying spurki rushed penetrating through the space, and instantly stabbed into the diagram of full moon. The full moon suddenly exuded endless amount of moonlight, and immediately flushed into the spurki, which was completely obliterated by the enormous might of bright moonlight. This was no moonlight. It was actually Yi Zaiwen's frightening Bladiki. He had managed to move one step further and integrated the creative concept with his Bladiki, and as far as his opponents were concerned, this attack was simply like a road roller-like existence. Compared with Yi Zaiwen's former pure creative concept, the might of this attack was simple unimaginable, and it was hard to determine how much stronger it had actually become. After completely obliterating the spurki, Yi Shiwen did not stop and took out his long blade and instantly chopped out a terrifying Bladiki. The Bladiki instantly rushed towards the Great Devil Commander, and it seemed as if it was tearing the sky of Masha territory, and would split him into two halves any moment. "Lowly human!" the Great Devil Commander shouted, and his voice resounded like a loud explosion. And giant spear in the hands instantly sketched the outline of devilish sun in the void, which then released dark and horrifying rays of light towards the Bladiki of Yi Shiwen. Boom! Layer upon layer of shock waves swept across in all directions when the spear attack clashed maliciously against the blade attack of Yi Shiwen. Bang! 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 Both of them felt a wave of horrifyingly massive strength from the clash of their attacks, and withdrew several steps back, leaving deep footprints on the ground. On the side of Yi Shiwen, when a group of great devils saw that Yi Shiwen had been repulsed, they thought to take advantage of this opportunity, and immediately advanced towards him while shrieking strangely, as if to rip him to shreds. Yi Shiwen waved the long blade, and a huge blade light swept out which rushed towards several great devils and instantly chopped them into two halves, while some of them instantly turned into minced meat. Abominable human! When Great Devil Commander saw that several of his devil men were instantly killed by Yi Shiwen, he suddenly roared out of anger and frustration. This was a deadly duel, not just between two masters but between two sides, because the outcome of this duel affected the situation of both sides. After all, the survival of the team of Yiyuan School's Seed Core disciples, or the Great Devil Army, depended on this duel. One was the commander of Great Devil Army, and his cultivation level was at the half-step truth level, which was almost equivalent to that of true masters. The other one was a fortuitous master, looking for adventure, but his fighting strength was also comparable to that of the masters of half-step truth realm. The collision between the two sides was destined to cause the heaven to fall and earth to shatter. The giant spear violently danced in the hands of Great Devil Commander, and produced sad and shrill howling sound, like the frightening shrieks and pitiful screams of devils. These pitiful screams belonged to the dead and were quite terrifying, filled with the lingering resentments of dead, and these resentments were attached at the tip of the spear. And as a result of this, the might of the spear didn't decrease. On the contrary, because of these screams and curses of the dead, the overall might of the spear increased by multiple folds and made it very formidable. The existence of Spurky produced round after round of roaring sounds, and it seemed as if the whole world had suddenly changed. The sound of intermittent crying and pitiful screaming had spread everywhere. It was like the whole world was falling into the hell, which was truly terrifying. At this moment, his spear technique seemed to have reached a high degree of proficiency, close to perfection, indicating that Great Devil Commander had practiced an authentic Modeo-based power technique. Yi Shiwen wasn't the slightest scared of this and maliciously chopped out an unstoppable blade light. In this battle, it could be said that Yi Shiwen was completely unleashing his true strength and enjoying the battle to his heart's content. Each and every collision was setting off boundless shock waves in the air, along with intermittent screams and cries. It was the Great Devil Commander's spear attack of resentful souls, but was completely annihilated by Yi Shiwen and vanished from this world along with the suffering souls that soon disappeared as well. Each time the two sides clashed, the great devils present in the vicinity would be swept off their feet, but Yi Shiwen simply did not care, because even if more of these devils were dying, it was none of his concern, and even the Great Devil Commander's eyes were blood-red and didn't seem to hold back, and was fighting with all his might without caring about the lives of his subordinates. Those great devils quickly withdrew far away from these two, because the aftermath of their battle was really too terrifying. Once again, the blade and the spear fiercely clashed. Boom! Zhen Yuan was crazily raging within Yi Ziwen's body. Tyrant body technique was also rapidly revolving inside his body and wrapping up a layer of golden light on his skin. When looked from afar, Yi Shiwen looked just like a golden god of war, while the Zhen Yuan had formed a shield and blocking off all the impacts from outside. There was a faint figure of coiling dragon totally entrenched on Yi Ziwen's body and was emitting intense dragon qi. And even with his relentless attacks, the great devil commander was finding it very difficult to break through the protective barrier of coiling dragon on Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen had already practiced hidden dragon rises from the abyss move of coiling dragon palm to the acme level and reached its perfection. Moreover, the coiling dragon wrapped on his body was the true nemesis of devils. At a distant place, although great devils had temporarily spread around a little, but Hua Menghan and other disciples had joined forces and were sticking together to protect themselves, and were watching the fierce battle going on between Yi Shiwen and the great devil commander, which seemed to have reached a very intense stage. There were astonished looks in their eyes, and all of them were constantly exclaiming, while witnessing this insane battle. Hu Yanghang was the only one among them who had a disdained look on his face, and was perniciously looking at Yi Shiwen. He was jealous of Yi Shiwen, extremely jealous, to such an extent that it was making him unable to stay calm. In a place where no one else was looking, he pinched a secret technique under his sleeves and secretly sent a message from his summoning talisman, which then instantly departed towards the heaven. Yi Shiwen, I will see how you die. Damn human, today is the day of your death. The great devil commander said in a cold voice, and his voice was so cold and grim, it seemed as if it was emerging out of an ice house. Originally, the great devil commander always kept aloof, but he held an unusual hatred for humankind. Perhaps lower-level devils were not aware of this, but he was well aware of the fact that the situation of the devils living in Masha territory was no different than that of a bunch of pigs, raised by formidable humans to be slaughtered in order to hone the skills of disciples of their sect. This was extremely painful for him. In fact, the thing which was even greater than this pain was actually the great shame that the proud devil race had to bear in Masha territory. If his devil race managed to become strong, and their strength exceeded a certain extent, then they would be beheaded by the formidable humans who occasionally came inside Masha territory from time to time for inspection. He was scared that such a fate would ultimately befall him, because he was a strong great devil himself. For the devil race of Masha territory, those who managed to become formidable would eventually be killed by formidable humans, and those who were not strong would be beheaded by the disciples of those formidable humans. And this was going to be their fate for generations. No, he would absolutely not allow such a fate to befall him. He would not become a stepping stone for these human disciples. He was an invincible devil. He must transcend this cage, then kill all humans and turn Jinwu Jia into a breeding field for devil race. All these humans were damn. A terrifying machi flooded out of the entire body of great devil commander. There was dead qi also infused with his machi, and faint ghostly shadows could clearly be seen condensed with the machi. The complexion on the face of great devil commander suddenly paled, because he condensed a huge amount of his energy in this attack. One could hear the sad and shrill screams coming from the ghostly shadows condensed around the giant spear, and the endless amount of dead qi was sizzling and making noise. It seemed as if it was corroding the air itself, and then, it instantly flew straight towards Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen suddenly felt that a terrifying spear machine was firmly locking on his body, followed by a surge of horrifying pressure, which instantly released from the spear and pressured down on him. Yi Shiwen started to madly revolve tyrant body technique inside his body, because he knew that this was definitely the last resort of this great devil commander, and as long as he was able to block this move, there would be no way out for the great devil commander. Yi Shiwen was not a recalcitrant. He instantly used Celestial Step and his figure shot forward, while his figure left afterimages and he instantly vanished. But at this time, he suddenly discovered that the spear was closely following him. Yi Shiwen did not have the chance to dodge, so he immediately clenched his teeth and shouted loudly, "Hidden dragon rises from the abyss." In an instant, endless amount of dragon qi completely surrounded his body, and his entire body suddenly disappeared inside the inexhaustible amount of dragon qi. A gigantic dragon, which was several meters long, immediately took shape and stretched out its claws and directly grasped toward that terrifying spear made up of deadki. Boom! A terrible explosion occurred, and that terrifying spear was firmly grabbed in the claws of the incarnation of gigantic dragon, while a mutually intense ablation started between Dragon Chi and deadki, which issued a buzzing sound, and this was an exceptionally fearful sight to witness. The spear filled with deadki struggled in the grasp of that incarnation of the gigantic dragon, released by Yi Zaiwen's coiling dragon palm technique, and was directly broken into pieces in midair. Broken inch by inch. Poof! The great devil commander screamed pitifully, spouted a mouthful of blood, while his burly stature swayed and slowly fell down on the ground. Devil die! Suddenly, a loud shout came from the sky, and while shaking the entire sky, a terrifying Bladiki instantly descended from the sky, and the great devil commander was instantly split into two halves. At that time, his ability to resist had completely disappeared. After issuing that move, which was obviously his last resort, he had completely exhausted his strength and was directly cleft in two by Yi Shiwen. When Great Devil Commander was killed by Yi Shiwen, the Great Devil Army immediately aligned themselves in a formation and started to retreat while showing excellent discipline. Their retreat was definitely not like the act of escaping mob. Yi Shiwen, Hua Menghan and other disciples did not want to pursue them. After all, the Great Devil Army was not defeated, only their commander was killed. However, Yi Shiwen didn't get time to relax because a loud shout suddenly arrived from far away. Where is Yi Shiwen? Chapter 149 Luo Clan's Dogs, Where is Yi Shiwen? A loud shout came from far away and gradually came nearer, and only in a while, 3 youths who had 25 or 26-year-old appearances arrived on the battlefield. One of them was a female with a radiant face like the moon itself. Another man had a medium build, looked ordinary, but appeared to have a tolerant and steady bearing. The last one looked handsome, and was wearing a magnificent robe. The cultivation levels of all 3 of them were extremely high and could not be underestimated. All of them had almost approached close to entering half a step into the truth realm, whereas the beautiful moon-face woman was already a master of half-step truth realm. Although her cultivation level was not as good as that of Yi Shiwen, but not far off either. After seeing this trio, Hua Menghan's complexion suddenly changed, and a look of unhappiness flashed on her face, especially after seeing the beautiful woman who was standing in the middle of the trio. Who is Yi Shiwen? The beautiful woman asked in a cold voice. Luo Senior Sister Apprentice, he is Yi Shiwen. From the crowd, Hu Yangheng suddenly stepped up and said while pointing towards Yi Shiwen. This immediately aroused discontented feelings in the hearts of Jing Yannan, Hua Menghan and other core seed disciples. It was Yi Shiwen who saved all of them a moment ago, but at this time, Hu Yangheng didn't think twice before betraying him. They could tell that Hu Yangheng was a typical faker and not at all authentic, but when their gazes were directed towards Yi Shiwen, they knew in their hearts that this guy was really authentic. Now they could not help but stay away from Hu Yangheng. In their hearts, they secretly decided that it was not worth to maintain a close and long-standing friendship with a guy like Hu Yangheng, because they couldn't trust him anymore, since he turned out to be a guy who might betray them as well. Hu Yangheng did have the slightest idea about other people's suddenly changed perception about him, because right now, the only thing remaining in his heart was envy and hatred for Yi Shiwen. Initially, Yi Zaiwen's existence was nothing more than a bug in his eyes, but now, he himself turned into a bug-like figure in front of Yi Shiwen, who actually became so fierce and formidable that he was simply not a match of Yi Shiwen at all. This stark contrast made him feel exceptionally uncomfortable. You are Yi Shiwen? Luo Senior Sister Apprentice looked coldly at Yi Shiwen, and lightly said, I am. Who are you? Yi Shiwen looked at that Luo Senior Sister Apprentice and said, while he could clearly see the ill intent in her eyes. Yi Shiwen also looked coldly at Luo Senior Sister Apprentice. Yi Shiwen, you have eyes but cannot see MT Tai. Hu Yangheng said in a complacent and triumphant manner. Shut up. Who do you think you are, daring to teach me? Yi Shiwen shouted in an angry voice and released sonic waves, which swept out towards Hu Yangheng like mighty ocean waves. The color of Hu Yangheng's face suddenly changed to purple, similar to the color of a pig's liver, and he immediately held his breath. You are courting death. Hu Yanghang was short of breath and suddenly shouted, but he simply forgot the performance of Yi Shiwen from a while back that had completely left him in a stunned state. His fist blasted, and a terrifying Quan Jin rushed towards Yi Shiwen and rumbled maliciously. But at this time, Yi Shiwen also moved, his figure suddenly swayed, and at the same time he also caught the Quan Jin in his hand and directly crushed it. In an instant, Yi Shiwen already arrived in front of Hu Yanghang, and using big profound hand, he instantly routed the Zhenyuan present inside the body of Hu Yanghang, then grabbed his neck. Yi Ziwen's palm looked just like an iron hoop when it firmly clutched Hu Yanghang's neck, and he seemed just like a chicken, clutched in the claws of an eagle. Everyone present there suddenly reacted, but then, they realized that Hu Yanghang was already in the grasp of Yi Shiwen. It happened so fast, it was simply like a miracle. No one could even see when it happened, because Hu Yanghang could not even use a single move to resist, and was immediately grabbed by Yi Shiwen. Hu Yanghang's neck was in the firm grasp of Yi Shiwen while his whole body was being locked down by Yi Ziwen's formidable Zhenyuan. And due to that, he basically did not have any strength left to even move. His face suddenly flushed with shame. He couldn't breathe properly, he was mad, he just could not accept in his heart. How could Yi Shiwen, an insect-like figure, become so formidable in so less time that he had actually been grabbed in Yi Ziwen's clutches simply like a trash? He hated this. He was anxious to kill Yi Shiwen earlier. If only he had gotten rid of Yi Shiwen earlier, then he would not be in such a situation. I have not gone to look for you, but you actually dared to come out on your own. You are just a trash who dares to plot against me again and again. Today you will pay the price. Yi Shiwen sneered and said, "Stop." Suddenly, Yi Shiwen heard a loud shout of that beautiful woman surnamed Luo, directed at him, while she instantly shot an enormous breath, which locked on Yi Shiwen, and the fluctuations in her martial arts instantly turned intense. Yi Shiwen immediately pulled over Hu Yanghang's to stand in front of him to block the attack. Boom! A terrifying power maliciously rumbled into the body of Hu Yanghang. He screamed pitifully and his body was covered with blood. His bones were broken, but at this instant, Yi Shiwen quickly and secretly shot his palm at the top of his pubic region. Hu Yanghang's martial arts were directly wasted, and he immediately fainted and fell on the ground. "How dare you?" that charming woman shouted in an angry voice and viciously stared at Yi Shiwen, while keeping a close eye on him. "You also saw. It was not me who did this," Yi Shiwen readily said in an indifferent tone, and threw fainted Hu Yanghang aside. "You?" The charming woman glared angrily at him and said, "Luo Fangyi, you sent your brother to kill me. If you have the ability, then try and do it yourself." At this time, Hua Minghan said, "Shut up, you slut. Do you think I cannot kill you? If it was not for giving face to master, you would have already died long ago." Luo Fangyi suddenly shouted, "Luo Fangyi, I am the closing disciple of head. This position is comparable to that of true disciples. You're just a trivial sect disciple. Do you think you can actually dare to defy your superiors?" Hua Minghan suddenly scowled and said in a serious tone, "What did you say?" Luo Fangyi glared at Hua Minghan with an apparent anger flashing in her round eyes. Yi Shiwen finally understood that this woman was the elder sister of Luo Tian, the guy who was trying to kill Hua Minghan that day by poisoning her. Master is considering Luo Tian's death is insufficient. It's a pity that he has not vented his anger on your Luo clan. You are lucky," Hua Minghan said without the slightest yielding in her tone. "Venting anger on my Luo clan just for you? My granduncle is a celestial elder of Yiyuan school, my uncle is also an elder, and my brother is a true disciple who will also take over the position of head of our clan in the future. Do you still think you can mess with our Luo clan?" Luo Fangyi shouted in an angry voice. From Luo Fangyi's roaring voice, a general outline of a formidable clan was sketched out, and Yi Shiwen finally came to understand that perhaps the influence of Luo clan was quite strong in Yiyuan school. Luo Yifan himself was a true disciple. In the future, he might also have the opportunity to compete for the position of sect head. And his uncle was an elder and should obviously be in the truth realm. And more importantly, he had a so-called granduncle, who was actually a Taishang elder, which was said to be the biggest authority in Yiyuan school, of course, only after the authority of head and the chiefs of the 9 peaks of Yiyuan school. In total 10 individuals. But the authority of a Taishang elder was very large, and he could also question the decisions made by sect head as well as chiefs of various peaks. In fact, some heads and chiefs were usually the apprentices of Taishang elders. It could be imagined that Luo clan was another huge influence in Yiyuan school, and even the sect head could not put his hands on them if there was not enough reason for it. All of these people were illustrious figures in Yiyuan school, and held a major influence. With Luo clan's prominent influence, it was no wonder that Luo Tian was at the Xiantian third stage back then, and had actually tried to kill Hua Minghan by poisoning her. It could be guessed that he had nothing to fear because even if he failed, Luo clan would shelter him, and so long as the Taishang elder of Luo clan would come forward, the sect head would have no alternative but to show due respect to him, regardless of how he actually felt. But even after considering all that, he never calculated that he would end up meeting Yi Shiwen, and would get beheaded before even getting a chance to properly brag about his own family background. After knowing this, Yi Shiwen felt an increasingly tremendous pressure. So he was not against just one person, Luo Yifan, but it was actually an entire clan having several truth-level masters as its members. However, since it had already begun, then there was nothing to say anymore. Today I'm going to block him and keep here. Soon my elder brother will come, and he has said that he would personally kill him. Luo Fengyi sneered and said. Luo Fengyi did not pay attention to Hua Minghan, because her cultivation level was inferior compared to her own cultivation level. Yi Shiwen, hurry up and escape. At your current strength you are not an opponent of Luo Yifan. You have absolutely no chance of winning against him. Yi Mo's voice suddenly resounded in his mind. Yi Shiwen also knew that if Luo Yifan was on the way, then perhaps he would catch up soon, and in that case he certainly could not stay here any longer. Even though he had achieved the strength comparable to the masters of half-step truth realm. But this strength would be insufficient in front of a true master like Luo Yifan. At his current strength, if he bumped into Luo Yifan, then the consequences could be disastrous. And it was simply a no-brainer that Luo Yifan would kill him on the spot. Yi Shiwen quickly analyzed the actions of the members of Luo clan, which also gave him a general insight about Luo clan. Luo Tian was only a master of Xiantian third stage, but he still tried to kill a closing disciple of the head of Yiyuan school. Luo Fengyi attacked Hu Yanghang, and he ended up getting crippled, but she did not care at all, and Luo Yifan blatantly interfered during seed disciple competition. Congregating all these facts, one could see the arrogant and overbearing demeanor of Luo clan, and also its extraordinary influence in Yiyuan school. So conclusion could be drawn from this that Luo Yifan would definitely kill him without worrying about anything. Brother Yi, where do you think you are going? Yi Shiwen was about to leave when suddenly, the figure of the mediocre-looking man moved and appeared in front of Yi Shiwen, blocking his way. Who are you? Yi Shiwen asked. Xie. The man lightly said. Get out of the way. Yi Shiwen said. Since Brother Luo is coming, you will have to wait for some time. Xie said in a cold voice, although he said in a very polite tone, but his words were actually filled with contempt. So, you are a lackey of that Luo? Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes and said with a killing intention flashing in his eyes. Luo Yifan has raised quite a few loyal dogs. Shut up. How dare you casually say Brother Luo's name like that? The handsome man said. If you had not thoroughly angered Brother Luo, then we would have killed you by now. Who are you? Yi Shiwen asked. Mui. The handsome man replied. Since Brother Luo is aiming for your life himself, we will let you live until Brother Luo arrives here. Well, I wonder if Luo Yifan would regret it when he gets to know that 3 of his core disciples died at once. A cold smile appeared on the face of Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen suddenly moved, his physique flashed, and in an instant, a burst of terrifying, imposing aura spread throughout the sky. Chapter 150. Reparations. After saying that, Yi Shiwen suddenly moved, his physique flashed, and in an instant, a burst of terrifying, imposing aura spread throughout the sky. If he wanted to get away, then the only way left for him was to behead all 3 of them as soon as possible. The speed of Yi Shiwen was so fast that none of the people present at the scene could see him clearly. He instantly used Celestial Step, and it could be seen that his movements were already at the acme level. And perhaps, only Luo Fangyi might just be able to slightly track his movements. Yi Shiwen, since you are so eager to die, then we have no choice but to kill you in place of brother Luo. Mui shouted loudly and immediately moved in order to stop Yi Shiwen and rushed straight towards him. While his terrifying strength of Xiantian Great, which was nearly approaching the strength of half a step truth realm, instantly spread out, and a huge chi field enveloped Yi Shiwen inside it. Boom! Yi Shiwen shot his palm, and the huge chi field instantly exploded, and within the endless frenzy of Zhenyuan after the explosion, Mui could not react, and in a flash, Yi Shiwen had already arrived in front of him. Coiling Dragon Palm. Hidden Dragon rises from the abyss. There was a panic-stricken look in the eyes of Mu Yi, and at this time, Yi Zaiwen's palm turned into dragon claws and maliciously slammed on his chest. Boom! Mu Yi, a master of the Xiantian Great Realm, was directly sent flying, all the bones in his body completely shattered. He spurted out a mouthful of blood mixed with some visceral matter released from his crushing internal organs. With just one palm attack from Yi Shiwen, this extremely arrogant guy was instantly sent flying. Then immediately, Yi Zaiwen's body shuttled forward like an arrow towards Mu Yi and shoved a fierce kick on his body in midair, and his body directly plummeted on the ground. Boom! Yi Zaiwen's kick was not one bit less fierce compared to his palm attack. Half of Mu Yi's body was directly split open by Yi Zaiwen's kick, his internal organs were crushed and his Zhenyuan was completely disrupted. It was now simply impossible for him to live in such a state. Impossible! Xie Yi shouted in disbelief because the strength of Mu Yi and his own strength were almost at the same level. But he just could not believe his eyes when he saw that not just Mu Yi was unable to block Yi Shiwen. He was also so effortlessly killed by Yi Shiwen. Yi Zaiwen's strength was simply unimaginable and super tyrannical. How could this Yi Shiwen be so tyrannical? How dare you kill a disciple of the same sect? You're done for, because now, not only you but your entire family must die. Xie Yi yelled. A cold look flashed in the eyes of Yi Shiwen. It was the most unacceptable thing for him when someone threatened his family, because if his family was even touched by anyone, then it would simply invoke the wrath of the Dragon Emperor itself inside of him. In this entire world, Yi Shiwen only held unbreakable bond with his family, and could do anything for them. And if someone threatened him using his family, then they would certainly be courting death. Boom! The tyrannical imposing aura of Yi Shiwen scattered in all directions. It seemed as if his whole persona was just like a tornado, while intermittent horrifying blast waves were rolling out of his body. In a flash, Yi Zaiwen's stature suddenly ejected straight towards Xie Yi just like an artillery shell. Xie Yi simply could not react and just saw a huge palm coming closer and closer towards his face, and instantly went toward his cheek. Bold! Luo Fangyi shouted and pointed her finger towards Yi Shiwen. And it seemed as if the finger point attack would break the world itself, and accompanied with air explosions while producing a zizzy sound in the air, it instantly arrived near Yi Shiwen. Get lost! Yi Shiwen shouted loudly, and suddenly, layer upon layer of sound waves proliferated through the atmosphere and blocked the finger point attack of Luo Fangyi. Luo Fangyi immediately had to withdraw several steps, because even if she was a master of the half-step truth realm, but this realm consisted of strong as well as weak masters, and Yi Shiwen was clearly the strongest in the half-step truth realm, while Luo Fangyi could only be regarded at the bottom of the half-step truth realm. Luo Fangyi did not have a way to stop Yi Shiwen while his palm continued to get closer and closer to Xie Yi. Smack! A loud sound of slap resounded and Xie Yi's body was instantly sent flying while spinning, and a mouthful of his teeth were also broken by the fierce slap from Yi Shiwen. Bang! Yi Shiwen directly trampled the dantian of Xie Yi and crushed it. After his dantian was destroyed, his body could no longer withstand the gravity and started falling towards the ground in an upside-down state. Yi Zaiwen's long blade chopped out a terrifying bladiki, which directly caught up with the flying body of Xie Yi. Poochie! Xie Yi was cleft in two halves in the midair by Yi Zaiwen's bladiki. Jing Yannan looked at Yi Shiwen, and could not help but held his breath for a moment. He did not expect Yi Shiwen to be so ruthless that he would mercilessly kill people in rage, but still in a decisive manner without any hesitation. When most people came to know about the true background of a clan like Luo clan, then they would certainly hesitate, and even try to sort out enmity and differences, even after knowing that there was no room left to sort out anything, and very few would dare to directly kill. Cultivating seed-level core disciples was not an easy task, and it could even be said that these people had been especially trained by Luo clan to be used in the future when they managed to break into the truth realm. They were one of the valuable assets of Luo clan, and now that they had been beheaded, the rage of Luo clan could be imagined. Now there was no turning back for the two sides. Only death was the ultimate solution. You dare? Luo Fangyi looked unbelievably at Yi Shiwen. Luo clan's overbearing influence was well known to everyone, and most people did not dare to go against Luo clan. Even one mention of the name of Luo was enough to make them scared. She was shocked not because of Yi Ziwen's ruthlessness, because compared to him, she had been much more cruel. She had committed a lot of cruel acts, and that was the reason why she was able to reach her current level, which was a proof of her ruthlessness, but it was all what she had done to others. No one ever did this to her until now. Who do you think you are? Since you dared to intercept me, be prepared to die. Yi Shiwen said in an extremely angry voice, which was quite scary to hear. They not just threatened him but his family as well, so now, he was fully convinced that he would absolutely not allow the people of Luo clan to hurt his family, at any cost. This was definitely not a joke. Luo Fangyi could clearly feel the murderous aura coming out of Yi Ziwen's body, and it was no secret that he was really intending to kill her. From the earlier fight, Luo Fangyi knew that she was definitely not the opponent of Yi Shiwen, which extremely frightened her in her heart. How could Yi Shiwen be so formidable? His strength was simply unimaginable, and was clearly above her own strength. After arriving here, she did not try to kill Yi Shiwen just because of her brother's request to trap Yi Shiwen in this place and stop him from escaping, so that when her brother would come, he would personally kill Yi Shiwen. So none of them had planned to kill Yi Shiwen from the outset. At this moment, she suddenly shivered because she realized that if she had tried to kill him earlier, then she would have been the first one to die. Thinking of this, suddenly, a chill ran down her spine and she instantly turned around to escape from Yi Shiwen. You want to escape? Humph. She turned around to escape, but a surge of Zhen Yuan hit her from behind and exploded, making her to instantly fall on the ground, followed by a figure dropping from the sky towards her. Yi Shiwen directly stepped on her body, and the terrifying strength applied an intense pressure on her chest, and she immediately spouted a mouthful of blood. Today, none of you are going to escape, Yi Shiwen said in a cold voice. Yi Shiwen originally did not want to slaughter them. That's why he just abolished the martial arts of Hu Yanghang and did not kill him. But later, these three thoroughly enraged him by bringing his family into this matter. And now, no matter what, he decided to exterminate all three of them, because even one of them managed to escape, then trouble would follow. But as long as no evidence was found by the Luo clan, then they could only plan secret attacks on him like today, and would not be able to publicly prosecute him without the solid evidence. He needed to be careful, because if the evidence was found by the Luo clan, then they had many ways to deal with him. In fact, they could even use their influence in the sect to deal with him. And by that time, if he did not possess enough strength to take on Luo clan, then that would really be a dead end for him. Yi Ziwen's Zhen Yuan was like the firmest shackles and had firmly locked down Luo Fangyi on the ground. She could not even move. Junior sister apprentice Hua, Junior sister apprentice Hua, save me. At this time, Luo Fangyi looked at Hua Menghan, as if she was looking at the peerless savior, and tried to seize the last ray of hope to save her life. Seeing that Hua Menghan turned away, suddenly, a feeling of despair arose in her heart, and she quickly shouted, Junior sister apprentice Hua, we are disciples of the same master. If you do no help me and master got to know about this, then he would certainly remove you from status of closing disciple. I did not see anything. A look of disgust flashed in the eyes of Hua Menghan, and seeing the current state of Luo Fangyi under the feet of Yi Shiwen, she actually felt some pleasant sensations in her heart. From the day she had entered the main sect, Luo Fangyi had been constantly causing troubles for her, because Luo Fangyi thought that after the arrival of Hua Menghan, the head would not receive her as closing disciple, so Luo Fangyi was always looking for trouble, and some time ago, she sent her brother to poison Hua Menghan. If she had not met Yi Shiwen back then, death would have been small, because before dying, she would have faced severe atrocities and insult. Considering this, the anger in the heart of Hua Menghan was not smaller than that of Yi Shiwen. Hearing the words of Hua Menghan, Luo Fangyi was demented and immediately shouted, "You damn bitch, you see somebody in trouble and still refuse to help, I will." Before she could finish the sentence, Yi Shiwen directly killed her, and at this time, not a shred of mercy was present in his heart. After all, if not handled in a cleanly manner, then perhaps it could invite greater trouble in the future. "We must hurry and report to the sect." Senior sister apprentice Luo and her team fought vigorously with the devils, but lost the battle after they exhausted their strengths and were ultimately killed by the devils. The devils also ate their corpses on the spot. At this time, Jing Yannan suddenly said. Yi Shiwen suddenly realized that Jing Yannan words implied that they were going to stand on the same front as Yi Shiwen and won't expose him. After all, they personally witnessed his rage and decisive killing, and were also afraid that Yi Shiwen would suddenly launch an attack on them. Moreover, they had a deeper friendship with Hua Menghan. In addition to Hu Yanghang, they also found the members of Luo clan very arrogant and annoying because they had tried to assassinate Hua Menghan, so they were secretly satisfied from the deaths of Luo Fangyi and her team. Judging from all this, it was obvious that they would certainly not risk their lives for the sake of the deaths of their enemies. Indeed, such a pity. Those devils are too cruel and flagitious. Everyone suddenly showed their acknowledgement and supported the statement made by Jing Yannan, showing that they were also on Yi Ziwen's side. Hua Menghan also nodded to show her consent, waved her palm, and a flame like Zhenyuan flew towards the 4 corpses and began to burn them. And in a while, the corpses completely burnt up without a trace left. Fellow senior brothers and sisters, I will not forget about the help I received today and certainly return the favor someday. If there is anything you need in the future, do not shirk to tell me about it. Chapter 151 Target, Truth Level Devil Commander. Half a month's time passed quietly. During this period of half a month, the entire Masha territory was in turmoil because the daughter of Luo clan, Luo Fangyi, had gone missing, and this news caused a stir in Masha territory. After Luo Yifan, Luo Fangyi was the outstanding talented master, who was most likely going to be the next truth level master of the Luo clan. But now, she completely disappeared and not even her corpse could be found anywhere. This caused Luo clan to get suddenly furious, especially Luo Yifan, because he was in the Masha territory when she disappeared, and this was the reason behind his violent anger. He was frantically searching for the whereabouts of Yi Shiwen, because he had a hunch that this was the doing of Yi Shiwen. Although the news widely spread that Luo Fangyi was killed by devils, but he did not believe it. She must have been killed by that Yi Shiwen, because Luo Fangyi had informed him that she was going to intercept Yi Shiwen along with her 2 partners, but after that, he did not receive any messages from her or her partners. And this thing had made Luo Yifan extremely furious, and he was searching Yi Shiwen in all directions in order to cut him into 10,000 pieces. But this search was not on a grand scale because it could be said that he still was not completely suspecting Yi Shiwen. Did that mean that at the time when they intercepted Yi Shiwen, they were killed by him instead? What to say? First, since Yi Shiwen was actually the chief of Inner Seed disciples, and he also broke several old records of Yiyuan school after so many years. And not just that, many people treated him as the next chief Yifan of Yiyuan school, and his extraordinary talent had also attracted the attention of a lot of old officials of sect. However, if he was secretly taken care of by Luo clan, and so long as no one else got to know about this, those old guys would obviously get very furious at the death of a peerless genius like Yi Shiwen. But they won't step up to do something about it, after all, who would try to fight for the sake of a deceased man. But if disclosed publicly, then perhaps, the anger of those old guys might lead to downfall of Luo clan. Although Luo clan was considered a big influence, but not big enough to hoodwink the public in a grand way. After all, even the mighty Luo clan had a lot of enemies. This was an unsaid custom followed in Yiyuan school, and if people wanted to kill someone, they must do it secretly, otherwise it would create a great disturbance and utter confusion in Yiyuan school. Second, not to mention, if 3 seed level core disciples were really killed by Yi Shiwen, then it would cause a huge uproar, but there was no evidence. Moreover, Yi Shiwen was the chief of inner seed disciples, and many old fogies favored him a lot. If he had really killed one of the top core disciples of Yi Yuan school, then his strength was definitely comparable to the strength of masters of half-step truth realm. And this news would cause a sensation throughout Yi Yuan school. Even many formidable masters who were still in closed-door training in the depths of space and time would be alerted to come out. After all, Yi Shiwen was just a kid who joined the main sect not even a year ago, so how could he become so formidable so fast? Perhaps when the time was right, the respectable seniors would come out from the depths of space and time, where these old fogies had been cultivating in seclusion, and they would take Yi Shiwen with them to the depths of space and time, and there, they would train him and also give him rich sect resources to help him grow faster. Compared to such a genius, Luo Fangyi's death simply did not mean anything to these old fogies, let alone it was Luo Fangyi who intercepted Yi Shiwen. So she got what she deserved. Yi Shiwen was such an evildoer that appeared once in a very long time in the world of martial arts, and such an evildoer was given the opportunity to obtain training and a large number of resources. Then in the future, no one would be able to imagine his strength, which would simply be against the heaven's will. So in this case, it was not easy to kill Yi Shiwen without disturbing others. In this short time of less than a month, several groups of core seed disciples and inner seed disciples, who were searching for Yi Shiwen, also disappeared without a trace, just like Luo Fangyi. Luo Yifan knew very well that it must be the doing of Yi Shiwen, but it was useless to suspect without the evidence. But loss of dearly ones had caused Luo clan to feel bad for quite a while. Though these seed disciples were not in the truth realm, but it had not been easy to cultivate them. Training worth of decades was needed to achieve the strength equivalent to the level of seed core disciples, and a lot of resources were also spent for their fast growth. If they were just ordinary masters of Xiantian 9th stage, then it was not a big to lose them, but they were the elites, who had learned most superior martial arts power techniques, and had also consumed finest and rare material treasures, so their martial arts was far better than their peers. It could be said that Luo clan had made a huge investment in them, and all of them held the highest possibility to qualify for the truth realm in the future. But it was all gone, all of them disappeared, i.e. In this session of seed disciple competition, Luo clan faced quite a heavy loss. Luo Yifan was not furious without a reason. Luo Yifan searched the outlying areas of Masha territory, but could not find Yi Shiwen. As if Yi Shiwen was also dead, but he actually knew that Yi Shiwen was not dead. He was absolutely not dead. Luo Yifan's intuition was telling him that Yi Shiwen was still alive. But he did not dare to go too deep inside the Masha territory, because in the depths of Masha territory, there was a huge country of devils, and among them, devil monarchs were very formidable, and there were many truth-level devils. It was said that only truth-level formidable individuals, who were almost near the level of Qi Fifan, dared to venture into the depths of Masha territory. Others did not dare to go too far and only roamed in the periphery. Luo Yifan had no idea that he would end up searching for Yi Shiwen for so long in the outskirts of Masha territory, but Yi Shiwen was actually in the depths of Masha territory, a place which was considered extremely dangerous due to it being the den of a large of formidable devils. But as far as Yi Shiwen was considered, that was not the case, because he was the master of Tianyuan Mirror, and unless he encountered a truth-level devil, other devils were not his opponents and were simply cut like vegetables by Yi Shiwen whenever they encountered him. Since the day Yi Shiwen killed Luo Fangyi, he had been honing his skills in the depths of Masha territory, partly to escape from the search of Luo Yifan. He knew that this was the place where Luo Yifan would definitely be afraid to come, and only extraordinary and rampant masters like Qi Fifan would dare to come here, or someone who held a major secret like Yi Shiwen. On the other hand, it was also because those devils in the periphery of Masha territory were not enough for him, because the essence absorbed by beheading those devils was no longer enough for Yi Shiwen, and basically was not helping at all in enhancing his cultivation level. Even if he was absorbing the essence present in the bodies of the devils of half-step truth level, the effect was not very big. Now the time to exit the Masha territory was soon going to arrive, and since Luo Yifan was unable to find him during this time, he would definitely wait for Yi Shiwen outside in order to intercept him. Yi Shiwen clearly knew about this, so he was temporarily risking his life to ensure his future safety. Now your cultivation is at the peak of Xiantian 7th stage, and your fighting strength is comparable to the masters of half-step truth realm. But even if you once again have a breakthrough to the Xiantian 8th stage, your fighting strength will still be comparable to the top masters of half-step truth realm. Yemo said. After all, you have not properly broken through to the truth realm, and you cannot imagine the huge gap between the truth realm and half-step truth realm. Only if you manage to reach the Xiantian 9th stage, at that time, your fighting strength will finally be comparable to that of a true master, and then, you will have enough strength to protect yourself. I know, Yi Shiwen said. At present, it is possible only if I absorb a large number of top-grade spirit stones. Otherwise, relying on my own accumulation of Lingqi, it will take too long to cross this ridge, probably 8 or 10 years or even more. It is said that you won't gain anything until you venture into the tiger's den. I just need to directly behead a truth-level devil and absorb his essence, and then in a short time, I will definitely make a breakthrough to the Xiantian 9th stage. Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes, and an inexplicable light flashed in his eyes. It was simply unthinkable for Yi Shiwen to take on a human truth-level master, although he himself was among the top masters of half-step truth realm, and it could be said that none of the masters of half-step truth level were his opponents, but if he encountered a truth-level master then he won't stand a chance. This was why he had been hiding from Luo Yifan, and now that the exit time was going to arrive soon, it was obvious that Luo Yifan must be extremely mad that Yi Shiwen killed several of his core-level seed disciples. And this time, he might not spare Yi Shiwen in front of the large crowd like he did last time, and might actually kill him on the spot. And if Yi Shiwen did not go out then it would undoubtedly anger Luo clan, and they would vent their anger on Qianyu faction or Yi family. So the only option left for Yi Shiwen was to risk his life and enhance his strength as soon as possible. At his current strength, Yi Shiwen did not stand a chance against a human master of truth realm, but as far as truth-level devils were concerned, Yi Shiwen believed that as long as there was the suppression of Tianyuan mirror, there was some possibility that he might stand a chance against a truth-level devil. Yi Shiwen had been observing from above a mountain peak for a long time, and some time later, he saw a grandiose caravan at a far distance, coming out of a devil city and consisted of many devil guards, and in the center, there was a truth-level devil. Earlier, Yi Shiwen had impersonated as a devil and entered the city to inquire, and had found out about this truth-level devil called Jufeng Feudal Lord. He recently entered the truth realm, and the demon emperor of Devil Country bestowed upon him the title of the feudal lord of Jufeng City and the neighboring areas. These days, almost every day, he would come out of the city with his caravan to patrol his own territory, and each time, he would be accompanied by a large retinue, with many devil subordinates and slaves. Yi Shiwen looked coldly at the Jufeng feudal lord because the only guy he needed to worry about was this Jufeng feudal lord. He could easily handle the rest of the devils in the caravan by using the suppression of Tianyuan mirror, because under the suppression, they would not be able to use even half their strengths. Although there were a lot of devils, but even their combined strength was not enough to stop him. His main target was the Jufeng feudal lord because he would be the most difficult one to deal with. Because Jufeng feudal lord had recently stepped into the truth realm, his breath was still somewhat unstable, and his aura was openly overflowing, and looking from afar his machi could be seen soaring in the sky, which was quite a frightening sight. Yi Shiwen did not have another choice. Those old devils who had stepped into the truth realm a long time ago were very terrifying existences, so relatively speaking, Jufeng City's feudal lord was the easiest target at Yi Ziwen's current strength. But at the same time he was aware of the fact that he was getting this opportunity for only one time because if he failed this time, Jufeng feudal lord would certainly be vigilant in his future patrols, and the next time, it won't be easy to kill him. Jufeng feudal lord would most probably come out of the city, accompanied by a lot of devil guards, and in addition to his own incredible truth-level strength, even by relying on the suppression of Tianyuan mirror, Yi Shiwen would have no chance of succeeding. Let's go! Yi Shiwen shouted, and while leaving deep footprints on the ground, his body shot forward, as if an arrow just left the bow and rushed straight toward the caravan of Jufeng feudal lord. Dash. Chapter 152, Bitter struggle. The loud shout of Yi Shiwen immediately attracted the attention of many devil guards and caused commotion and disturbance among them. They pulled out their weapons and looked coldly at Yi Shiwen. Judging from his battle cry, it was certain that he was not a friend and must be stopped. Suddenly, they smelled Yi Ziwen's breath and realized that he smelled like a human being, and their complexions immediately changed. Human. It was actually a human. In Masha territory, the enmity between the human race and devil race was even greater and deadlier. They hated each other and were sworn enemies. And so long as a human appeared in their territory, then he would certainly be killed. Human warriors used them as objects to gain experience, and this had developed a burning anger in the hearts of these devils. Subject him to death. A Xiantian 9th stage devil master took out his long blade and shot a myriad of blade light, and it seemed as if they were cutting through a section of the world itself. Yi Shiwen immediately waved his long blade, and it seemed as if a galaxy itself started to fall from the 9th heaven, like a swaying slice of magnificence, and instantly crushed the myriad of blade light. And after that, it rushed towards that master. Dang! A loud metal clashing sound spread and Yi Ziwen's blade light clashed with the long blade of that master, and instantly shattered it into pieces and crumbled down on the ground. Yi Ziwen's blade light went unobstructed like the lightning itself, and it was too late for that devil master to dodge, and was cleft in two while screaming pitifully. The other devil masters simply did not care even if one of their own was beheaded by Yi Shiwen, but there was not even the slightest change in their attitude. It could be said that these devils had crawled out of the sea of blood, had lived a long life through bloody battles, and were extremely cold-blooded. In addition to that, they were all extremely cruel existences, and at this moment, they only cared about their one and only target, Yi Shiwen. Clang! 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 Dozens of the devil warriors suddenly released their attacks and numerous blade lights filled the entire sky, while each blade light was so terrifying that it was sending shock waves in the air. Innumerable blade shadows directly shook the entire sky and filled the entire atmosphere with machi. There was a deadpan look on the face of Yi Shiwen as he was using Celestial Step. His pace did not stagnate even the slightest as he directly dashed wildly towards the Jufeng feudal lord, and his blade issued a bright blade light in the sky that directly rumbled against those devil masters and sent them flying in all directions. Dang! 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 The terrifying strength of Yi Shiwen severely hit those devil masters, who did not stand a chance in front of him, and his blade light almost instantly wiped out several devil masters, and the weaker ones were instantly chopped down into pieces. Yi Shiwen did not stop and continued to release formidable blade lights, ruthlessly, and one after another. Poof! Yi Ziwen's blade light pierced the chest of a devil master, that minced his internal organs and killed him in an instant. Yi Shiwen waved his long blade, and released a terrifying bladiki which went flying and advanced unhindered towards the devils. Bang! The body of a devil master was sliced at his waist and two sections of his body flew upside down. Yi Shiwen continued to rush straight through the group of devil guards, as if he was taking a stroll. Others devil guards saw their companions getting chopped down and dying, but they were not the slightest afraid and rushed towards Yi Shiwen. These were experienced devil guards and all of them had gone through very rigorous training, and were only loyal to Jufeng feudal lord. The cunningness and cruelty of these devils was completely on a different level. Bang! But it was obvious, when these devil experts rushed towards Yi Shiwen. They were chopped down by his blade, their bodies instantly burst, their heads cracked open, breasts were split in half. Yi Shiwen seemed to be leisurely and easily making his way towards Jufeng feudal lord while killing all of the devil guards who were trying to get in his way. He advanced quickly while sending those devils flying and splattering blood all the way. Jufeng feudal lord was different and much stronger than these devil guards, but each of them had followed him for a long time, and helped him in his conquest to become a direct descendant, and gain his current status. They were extremely loyal to the Jufeng feudal lord, and one could say that the masters of the same level of Yuan school were not necessarily the opponents of these devil guards. These devil guards were just like killing machines that had crawled out from a battle scene, ruthless, and were not afraid to die. But they were being chopped down like vegetables by Yi Shiwen without getting a chance to even react. And it seemed like he was just taking a stroll. Damn human, you actually dare to appear in front of us, You are really courting death. A devil master of half-step truth realm said in a loud voice and rushed towards Yi Shiwen. He was the captain of the devil guards. From a distant place, Jufeng feudal lord was looking coldly at the rushing figure of Yi Shiwen. He was looking down on Yi Shiwen, who was not even the master of truth realm, and he was simply not paying attention to Yi Shiwen. As if he was looking in the direction of Yi Shiwen, but did not bother to pay attention to an ant-like existence. The half-step truth-level devil captain threw an extremely formidable Quan Jin, which twisted up, forming a tornado, then swept towards Yi Shiwen, swallowing everything on the way. Yi Ziwen's long blade chopped out a dazzling move, but very gently, and in a flash, 100 feet long blade light instantly congealed and rushed maliciously. The half-step truth-level devil captain did not expect Yi Shiwen to be so formidable. After all, Yi Shiwen was also at the same level as him, and devils were supposed to be inherently superior warriors compared to the humans at the same level. Then how could Yi Shiwen, a human master at half-step truth realm, be more formidable than him? He immediately threw his fist in order to release Quan Jin, but did not get a chance to react, and before he could realize what happened, his arm was suddenly cut off by Yi Shiwen on the spot. Yi Shiwen clearly had the upper hand, and his long blade instantly chopped out a second time, and used Missing Moon Beheader at the devil captain, without pausing even for an instant. Pucci, the half-step truth-level devil captain, was directly split into two halves by Yi Shiwen. Human, you are quite courageous to actually dare and attack the caravan of this Jufeng feudal lord. At this time, Jufeng feudal lord finally moved. Human, today, you must die. I will use your human blood to wash away the shame that human beings have imposed on devil race. Cut the crap, Jufeng feudal lord. Today it's you who is going to die. Yi Shiwen was not in a mood to talk nonsense with Jufeng feudal lord. During these days that he had spent in investigating about him, he had also discovered that this Jufeng feudal lord and other devil feudal lords were all incomparably cruel and brutal. The devils around Jufeng feudal lord immediately made way for him, and did not dare to approach him. The strength levels of these two masters simply could not be compared, and perhaps, if it was someone else challenging Jufeng feudal lord, then it would be a dead end for them. Human, die. Jufeng lord bellowed and blasted his fist. Layers after layer of mochi swept out, and from the void, black blossoming lotuses suddenly congealed and dropped from the sky. Each of these black lotuses contained terrifying strength, and with just a single touch, masters of Xiantian 9th stage would directly get killed without leaving any room to escape. But at this time, the Tianyuan mirror, hidden in Yi Ziwen's body, finally assumed an awe-inspiring stance and released a horrifying emperor-like coercion which instantly and firmly suppressed the strength of Jufeng feudal lord, making him to have an aggrieved feeling in his heart while horrifying waves of coercion were pressuring him. However, the black lotuses started to fall towards Yi Shiwen at terrifying speeds. Yi Shiwen suddenly chopped out his long blade, and a fearful majestic diagram of moon congealed in the sky, and went towards the falling black lotuses, and swept them away. Boom, 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 boom. Yi Ziwen's blade attack swept away most of the black lotuses, and they started to explode one by one. Die, you ant-like human! An inexplicable coercion was tightly holding him down, causing him to have a feeling of surrendering, and this feeling had penetrated deep into his heart, which soon made him to get depressed and extremely mad, and he suddenly attacked once again. Boom, boom, boom. The black lotuses strangely disappeared and suddenly reappeared behind Yi Shiwen, and exploded. Poof! Yi Shiwen spouted blood from his mouth, and his full body armor instantly disintegrated, while blood started dripping from his back, covering the entire back portion of his body in blood. It was indeed true that truth-level masters were incomparably terrifying. Although most of his strength was being suppressed by Tianyuan mirror, but he still had enough strength to fatally wound Yi Shiwen. If Jufeng feudal lord was using his full strength, then, the earlier attack was sufficient enough to violently kill Yi Shiwen. However, there wasn't the slightest fear on the face of Yi Shiwen. On the contrary, at present, the look on his face made him look like a battle maniac, who was enjoying the battle very much. His opponent was a disciplined commander and a formidable opponent, but he still must beat this opponent at any cost. Damn human, I will crush you. Lord Jufeng roared fiercely and blasted his fist maliciously towards Yi Shiwen. Boom! The fist swept out of fist wind which took form a very scary black tornado, and it seemed as if it was cutting off and twisting the space itself and swallowed everything on its way. As the fist blast arrived, it seemed as if the time itself stagnated, and in this moment, only the glory of this fist attack was visible to all. An invisible pressure instantly attacked the heart of Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen, watch out! Yi Mo shouted. This truth-level Devil Lord strength was terrifying and far beyond his imagination. The brilliant Quan Jin seemed to enlarge infinitely, as if it was going to expand right across the sky, and fiercely exploded. Most people could not see. Even Yi Shiwen could faintly see the trajectory of this terrifying and incredibly fast Quan Jin, and instantly chopped out his long blade, releasing gorgeous rays of light that ultimately transformed into a supreme blade and shot up in the sky towards that terrifying Quan Jin. At this time, from the look on Yi Zaiwen's face, it seemed as if he was drowning in water and tightly clenching his teeth to fight against the horrifying pressure. Boom! Quan Jin and blade light suddenly collided with each other, and this collision was so dazzling that it was hard to open one's eyes, so formidable that it almost crushed the space and seemed to spread chaos, just like the scene of grand explosion during the Big Bang, and layer after layer of huge shockwaves spread in all directions. The brilliant Quan Jin of the Jufeng feudal lord was incomparably powerful, and he had to use Zhen Yuan behind his back to support himself in front of such a powerful attack, while the Quan Jin quickly engulfed his blade light. And this time, the gap between the strengths of the two masters clearly reflected itself, and was incisive and vivid. Boom! The incomparably horrifying Quan Jin instantly blasted into the body of Yi Shiwen, and he spat a mouthful of blood. The horrifying Quan Jin thundered on the body of Yi Shiwen, while at the same time, the impact caused the tyrant body technique to suddenly enhance to the acme level. And just like the fierce collision of two weapons, in that instant, a deafening loud sound resounded. The Quan Jin finally dispersed and the entire chest of Yi Shiwen was covered in blood due to it. If his body wasn't abnormally strong, then like ordinary people he would have been turned into minced meat by the terrifying blast of that Quan Jin. Chapter 153. Comparable to Truth Realm, Yi Zaiwen's body was almost beaten to disintegration because the attack of this truth-level master was too terrifying. But it was only this once, as the Jufeng feudal lord was once again completely suppressed by the Tianyuan mirror, and as long as the mirror's coercion was acting on him, he won't be able to issue such a terrifying attack again. But Jufeng lord did not give Yi Shiwen much time to rest, and again threw a fierce Quan Jin that went across the sky towards Yi Shiwen and rumbled maliciously. Yi Zaiwen's immortal-like stature swept out in the air. His blade's intention shot up towards the sky and transformed into a very lifelike and vivid coiling dragon made up of blade intention, and it seemed that it would destroy everything that would come in its way. The huge coiling dragon made up of blade intention soared high into the sky, and it seemed as if it would destroy the heaven itself. The long blade danced in his hands and released Zhen Yuan, which then suddenly soared several folds into the sky and firmly advanced towards the Jufeng feudal lord. The Quan Jin of Jufeng feudal lord congealed out of void and transformed into an invincible war devil, and rushed towards Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen immediately transformed the blade intention into multiple vivid diagrams. Each of these diagrams were capable of suppressing the entire world and crushing everything. The invincible war devil was directly crushed and obliterated by the vivid diagram of Yi Zaiwen's blade intention. But in the meantime, without the slightest stagnation, Yi Shiwen immediately extended his hand, which then changed into a dragon claw, displaying the might of coiling dragon palm. Hidden dragon rises from the abyss, and the coiling dragon immediately advanced towards Jufeng feudal lord to grab him. Boom! Yi Zaiwen's dragon claw directly bombarded on the body of Jufeng feudal lord, who could not react and still did not know that this attack actually shattered most of his ribs. And at this time, the Quan Jin of Jufeng feudal lord rumbled on the body of Yi Shiwen and directly shattered quite a few of his breastbones. Both of them immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, and their bodies flew upside down, and were also shocked by fierceness of each other's attacks, while the intention to kill suddenly intensified in their eyes. Yi Shiwen must kill him to gain the strength equivalent to the masters of the Truth Realm, and Jufeng Feudal Lord couldn't allow this insolent lowly human to escape. This was an old hatred, an impassable animosity. Boom, boom, boom. Both of them were trying their utmost in the battle. Each move would cause fierce air explosions and collapse the atmosphere. None of them were holding back even the slightest and were constantly using cutthroat attacks on each other. Tianyuan Mirror had produced a square-shaped curtain made up of scarlet light, and it was hanging above his head. And the spirit stones began to burn inside the storage ring of Yi Shiwen, constantly emitting huge amount of Lingqi to consolidate Tianyuan Mirror. Damn human! Jufeng Feudal Lord roared. He never thought that he would actually be seriously wounded by a lowly human. A human who had not even stepped into the Truth Realm. He was so seriously wounded that blood was constantly spilling out from the corners of his mouth. And he still was not aware that some of the broken ribs had pierced his internal organs, resulting in constant blood loss. The degree of Yi Ziwen's aggressiveness had gone far beyond the imagination of Jufeng Feudal Lord, because he never thought that Yi Shiwen would actually be able to injure him. He was merely a human who had not even stepped into the Truth Realm, and who would have thought that a lowly ant-like human would actually injure him to such an extent. After entering the Truth Realm, this was the first time he had to face the bitter feeling of sustaining injuries. Yi Shiwen did not expect that this truth-level devil would actually be so terrifying, and it would be so hard to deal with him. This battle had gone far beyond his imagination, but at this moment, there was an even more excited expression on his face, because he knew full well that if he could beat such a strong opponent, then he himself would become much stronger than ever before. With an ice-cold expression on his face, Yi Shiwen shouted, "Die!" Yi Shiwen started to release blade intentions one after another, and a group of blade intentions blotted out the entire sky and pressed down. This was a competition between creative concepts, and this was also a competition to see which one of them would be able to resist, and which one would go down. Jufeng Feudal Lord bellowed. The Machi in his body quickly condensed into an ancient war devil, and right now, it was in a defensive posture. His injuries were more severe compared to that of Yi Shiwen, and under the constant great suppression of Yi Mo's Tianyuan Mirror, he almost could not control himself because of the thought that had suddenly sprouted in his heart, and was forcing him to prostrate in front of Yi Shiwen. This was a terrifying thought, making him want to snarl in desperation. He absolutely could not kneel down in front of a lowly human. Boom! A terrifying blade intention was fiercely chopped out towards the war devil of Jufeng Feudal Lord. The blade intention transformed into a moon-like cold and sharp bladiki, and instantly split that war devil into two halves. And after that, it collided into the body of Jufeng Feudal Lord. Poof! Jufeng Feudal Lord was blasted away, and his body directly crashed on the ground, and he spurted out a mouthful of blood. Yi Shiwen shot his palm, congealing a long shadow of a coiling dragon. It thundered and released sound waves which transformed into 4 sonic arrows and shot forward. Divine Dragon flings its tail. Bang! The dragon's tail swept towards Jufeng Feudal Lord, and he was immediately sent flying. The coiling dragon's large tail had swept. Moreover, it was an all-out sweep, so the consequences could naturally be imagined. The barrier of energy protecting the body of Jufeng Feudal Lord instantly exploded under the terrifying strength of Coiling Dragon's attack. And there simply was no way left for the Jufeng Feudal Lord to protect himself. Kala! There was no suspense. Jufeng Feudal Lord was swept away. All of the bones in his body completely shattered and turned into powder, while one could still hear the dragon howl. This end was incomparably terrifying. Damn it! Jufeng Feudal Lord roared loudly. He just could not accept that such a fate would befall him. That he would be defeated like this by Yi Shiwen. Bang! Yi Shiwen used his foot to heavily stamp on the sternum of Jufeng Feudal Lord, and after directly smashing it, his foot immediately penetrated into the ground. The heart of Jufeng Feudal Lord was instantly crushed, and without the heart, he struggled a bit, then finally died. Tianyuan Mirror emitted scarlet light which completely enveloped the Jufeng Feudal Lord, and his Jingqi was instantly absorbed by Tianyuan Mirror. Then after refining it and removing the impurities, the refined essence was instilled into the body of Yi Shiwen. Right after this, the imposing aura of Yi Shiwen started to increase gradually. Attack him, kill that damn human and take revenge for the feudal lord. After witnessing the death of the Jufeng feudal lord, some of the devils who were part of the caravan of the Jufeng feudal lord immediately left the formation and ran away. Not much time had passed since the Jufeng feudal lord had assumed the post of the feudal lord of Jufeng City, so how could they possibly have any sense of belonging for him? However, there were some of the original followers of the Jufeng feudal lord who had fought alongside him during the Jufeng Civil War and were very loyal to him. At this time, all of them rushed towards Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen coldly snorted, and a long dragon soared into the sky and coiled around Yi Shiwen. The devils who had just now approached near him were directly torn to pieces by the long dragon and could not approach him. The overwhelming dragon chi of this long dragon was itself the nemesis of these devils, and coupled with the strength of Yi Shiwen, these devils simply didn't stand a chance. In addition to this, at this time, the Tianyuan mirror had assumed an awe-inspiring stance above the head of Yi Shiwen, and with its support he was already able to deal with a truth-level master like Jufeng feudal lord who had only been suppressed to a certain extent under the influence of Tianyuan mirror. But the strength levels of these devils was below the truth realm. Most of them were the devils of Xiantian 8th stage or 9th stage, and it was easy to completely suppress them. These devils could not withstand the horrifying coercion of the Tianyuan mirror that appeared all of a sudden, and they immediately knelt down on the ground, trembling, and a thought appeared in their hearts making them feel as if they were present in front of their master. And Yi Shiwen appeared as a godlike presence to them. The long dragon killed all them while none of them dared to resist, and eventually, the life essences of these devils were also absorbed by Yi Shiwen's body. Although the effect was small, but it was still better than nothing. Yi Ziwen's imposing aura finally started to increase successively. Boom! Yi Shiwen finally had a breakthrough and stepped into the Xiantian 8th stage. His imposing aura increased by a section but did not transform completely, though at this moment, he had become stronger than a master of half-step truth realm, and his strength became even more unfathomable. Yi Ziwen's body was crazily absorbing the life essence of Jufeng feudal lord, which was completely different from the life essence of a master at the half-step truth realm. It was said that stepping into the truth realm was actually the second major transformation after the first major transformation during the breakthrough from Hotian realm to Xiantian realm. And it also brought forth bigger changes compared to the breakthrough from the Hotian realm. After stepping into the Xiantian realm, the lifespan increased from 100 years to 200 years. And again after breaking from Xiantian realm to Truth realm, the lifespan increased from 200 years to 500 years, which was almost more than double. The life essence also had a complete change after stepping into the Truth realm compared to how it was in the Xiantian realm. For stepping into the Xiantian realm from the Hotian realm, pure exercise of mortal body was required and one needed to open up the world bridge. However, after stepping into the truth realm, one started understanding some of the laws of the world, and also used them. For example, the flight itself violates the laws of the world, because according to the world's law, flight is impossible without the wings, but after comprehending some of the rules, one could override these limitations, and not just flight. There were many examples like breathing underwater, walking in the fire, things that were not possible for a human being to achieve with his own ability, but a truth-level master could do all these impossible things. This was the beginning of the transformation of the body from an embryo into the legendary immortal god. Although this Jufeng feudal lord was a devil, but in this regard, things were exactly the same for both devils and humans irrespective of their races. The life essence of Xiantian-level devils and truth-level devils were very different, and the moment Yi Shiwen absorbed the refined life essence of Jufeng feudal lord, his cultivation instantly began to rise gradually. Meanwhile, Yi Shiwen also found out that when he came into contact with the life essence of a truth-level master, he also came into contact with the laws of this world, and the space in his mind also began to change. Originally, it was only for martial arts and could comprehend unceasingly, and the results of those comprehensions appeared in front of Yi Shiwen, making it easy for him to understand. In other words, originally, the space worked in a way that a school student could understand the language used to explain the contents in a university, which in itself was a miracle, an incredible myth. If not relying on this mysterious space, Yi Shiwen would not have been able to achieve his current strength in almost a year's time. And considering the progress he had shown during this 1 year, others would have achieved the same progress in several decades or even a century. Now that Yi Shiwen had finally come in contact with the laws of the world, the mysterious space actually began to analyze all sorts of mysteries of world laws, and revealing them in front of him, who was initially unable to understand even the basic laws, but now he discovered that as long as he continued to inject Lingqi into the mysterious space, his understanding of the laws of the world would continue to improve. This was the reason why Yi Shiwen was confident that even when he was at the Xiantian 9th stage, he should be able to contend with a master at the first stage of Truth Realm, because these first stage true masters had only comprehended some of the basic world laws. But at present, Yi Shiwen could draw support from the mysterious space, making him able to grasp these laws faster. Xiantian 8th Intermediate. Xiantian 8th Late. Xiantian 8th Peak. Boom. The imposing aura of Yi Shiwen suddenly reached a terrifying level, and even the clouds in the sky started twisting into a group along with his breakthrough. Xiantian 9th Stage. The fighting strength of Yi Shiwen rose dramatically, and became comparable to the masters of Truth Realm, then stopped. Yi Shiwen opened his eyes that flashed with vitality, and along with that, an explosion occurred in the atmosphere. Chapter 154. Trial ends. Although it was very difficult to control one's own state and restrain one's breath just after having the breakthrough. For example, that Jufeng feudal lord who had recently broken through and entered into the Truth Realm, but could not hide his breath. But Yi Shiwen was different. He had already reached a terrifyingly high level of restraining breath technique, and now, even if a master of Truth Realm was in front of him, they would find it difficult to discover Yi Shiwen's presence. He instantly restrained his breath. At this time, there was no presence of devils within a radius of 100 miles. And Yi Shiwen had already killed Jufeng feudal lord, so how could they dare to stay there? So while Yi Shiwen was having a breakthrough, they quickly escaped. At this time, Yi Shiwen felt several godly sweeps which swept over the entire area, and all belonged to the truth level masters. Though there were merely 10 of them in the nearby areas who had used their godly sweep, it seemed like at the time when Yi Shiwen was having a breakthrough, the color of world had deteriorated, and this had attracted the attention of many truth level masters in the neighborhood. It is not safe to stay here for a long time. You should better leave this place a bit faster. Yi Mo said. There may be some truth level powerful devils heading this way. And Yi Shiwen nodded and said, now it's about time for the trial to end. We must go out. Yi Shiwen said, and a rainbow suddenly appeared underfoot, and his entire figure vanished in the emptiness, dashing forward like a human god. It seemed like a month's time had passed in an instant, and it was time to open the door connecting Yiyuan School to Masha territory. Although the loss of personnel was not small, but this loss would soon be supplemented from the outside. A team of 100 people was simply not a problem as long as there were few people who could progress by leaps and bounds and get stronger than everyone. This was the fundamental notion in Yiyuan School, that a strong individual was worth 1,000 mediocre. Yiyuan School was one of great forces of the Great Yu State, but what was the actual reason behind its influence? It was not due to the hundreds of thousands of disciples, not due to the hundreds of true disciples, but was actually due to the 100 or so legendary level masters who held the most influence and held status right after the leaders of 10 Peaks, the head, and the Taishang Elder. This was the foundation of Yiyuan School and truly guaranteed its safety, so it trained disciples with the consistent standards of picking out the elites, more talented, more cultured elites, who could get enormous benefits for the sect. Although cruel, but it was a fundamental conduct in Yiyuan School. Not only Yiyuan School, other major sects were also like this. This was a convention and was true at any place. The seed disciples were no doubt the most outstanding ones. I heard that there is an extraordinary character among this year's inner disciples. A core seed disciple said, and looked towards a distant place where inner seed disciples were present. The team of core seed disciples seemed to have shrunk by almost 1/3, and in comparison to them, the number of inner seed disciple was not much less. This was because they knew that their own strength was limited, so they did not go too deep inside the Masha territory. Basically, they just roamed in the peripheral areas, and therefore, the casualties were minimized. This was the so-called trying to drink while pecking, and because of this, Yuan school put these disciples in this place. They just wanted these core disciples to go through the worst to gain experience and enhance their strengths. Only the truth-level disciples had the ability to survive in this place. The sect knew that the disciples would not go too deep, and if they didn't, then they would not be able to have a major change in their destiny. If its disciples did not persevere, then the whole generation would be just a group of idiots, and even if they were to die, there would be nothing to pity. Such type of people who were not prepared to take risks could not see the future clearly, and were doomed to lack future prospects. A character like Qi Fifan. Are you perhaps talking about that Yi Shiwen? A nearby disciple replied. Several disciples on the surrounding gave a clear understanding look, as if they knew that it could only be Yi Shiwen. I heard that even Luo Fangyi, Xie et al. Also died at his hands. A disciple exclaimed. Really? No wonder, some time ago, the people of Luo clan were wildly looking for him in the entire Masha territory. Another disciple joined the discussion and said, Is that so? No wonder. Otherwise, why do you think that Luo clan would be so angry all of a sudden? They had put every effort in training Luo Fangyi, and she was going to be the next person to enter the truth realm after Luo Yifan, and could become a great truth-level master. It could be said that the current generation of Luo clan was going to be headed by these two in the near future. I never thought that she would actually die here. The disciples explained. Earlier, I heard that Yi Shiwen was also involved in the death of Luo Tian, so he was running away from Luo clan, but no one thought that he would actually kill the members of Luo clan instead. A disciple said in such a way as if he had actually witnessed this with his own eyes. Luo clan wants to conceal the news, but they cannot stop others from knowing. Almost everyone knows about this matter. This is fun, but I'm afraid that Yi Shiwen is not fully aware of Luo clan's influence, otherwise he would not have done things to send Luo clan into rage. I think he is well aware of that because I heard that the team that Luo clan sent later to find Yi Shiwen has also disappeared without a trace. I doubt that they have fallen in the hands of Yi Shiwen. It can be said that Luo clan has faced a huge loss, and although it cannot be said that they have been beaten, but they have been hurt pretty bad, that's for sure. But since there is no evidence, this time, Luo clan must be having a feeling that their teeth have been knocked out. Another disciple said, do you think that Luo clan is at disadvantage? Yes, they don't have evidence, but if there was evidence then Yi Shiwen's family would have been eradicated by now. That's the code of conduct of Luo clan. It enough for them to kill someone just based on suspicions, because according to their rules, killing a wrong person is fine but not letting go a culprit. Well, let us not discuss about this anymore. You do not know about the overbearing attitude of Luo clan. And now that Yi Shiwen has beheaded so many of their members in such a short time, no matter what happens, it is going to become a big issue sooner or later, so when the time comes, do not get yourselves involved in this. After Hua Menghan heard these words, a somewhat worried look appeared on her face, but at this time, Jing Yannan smiled and said, It should not be a problem. Brother Yi is very strong, and when the time comes, he will be regarded as a peerless talent, and the sect would come to take him under their care and personally train him. Even the rampant Luo clan would not be able to touch him. Everyone nodded, although some of them had not met him face to face, but they still held good impression about him. Yi Shiwen was critically decisive and made right decisions at the key moment. He was not attracted head over heels towards women, and there was no shred of arrogance in him around friends, and only seemed to show his arrogance to his enemies. Being friends with such a guy should be a good choice. Then suddenly, in the distant horizon, a streamer flashed and a figure descended down from the sky. It was Luo Yifan, but at this time his complexion was ashen and completely pale. When the disciples in the surrounding area saw him like this, all of them suddenly went silent, because they did not want to incur the wrath of a mad god who seemed to be in such a state that he could kill indiscriminately if annoyed. 1 month, he was looking for a whole month, but still no signs of Yi Shiwen, which was simply unimaginable for him. He had never encountered such a cunning enemy, like a mosquito that bit then flew away then bit again, so annoying but also painful. Moreover, he sent several waves of core seed disciples, but they also completely suffered defeat. And what made him even more depressed was the disappearance of several waves of core seed disciples. Not to mention, he himself went almost everywhere to search for Yi Shiwen but could not find him. He was simply depressed to death. He did not know that he was finding ways to intercept Yi Shiwen, and Yi Shiwen was also asking around to locate his position in order to intercept him. He never thought that Yi Shiwen would actually be so bold that he would dare to kill his henchman. In short, he was depressed to death and had never encountered such a situation. Though it was all coming to an end, because in addition to the core disciples, even the true disciples needed special approval to enter and wander inside Masha territory, and also required some special circumstances or reasons to go inside. This was the only opportunity to catch Yi Shiwen, as he must come out now, because if he didn't then that would be equivalent to violation of the sect rules. Once he would come out, Luo Yifan planned to behead him once and forever, and as far as evidence was concerned, who needed that stuff? At this time, Luo Yifan's brain was completely overwhelmed with anger, and was no longer thinking rationally. Luo Yifan arrived in the front of Hua Menghan and said in a cold voice, "Hua Menghan, I'm asking you one last time. Do you admit or not that my sister was killed by Yi Shiwen?" Luo Yifan's terrifying imposing aura came out and tightly locked on Hua Menghan. She withstood such a horrifyingly heavy pressure and her tender body slightly trembling, but did not collapse, because she possessed some treasures that could resist against this terrifying imposing aura, and she soon returned to a normal state. Luo Fangyi was killed and eaten by devils. Hua Menghan said in a calm and tranquil voice. Although Luo Yifan's imposing aura was quite terrifying, but it was still just an imposing aura. He could dare to openly search for Yi Shiwen in order to kill him, but he definitely would never dare to hurt her. Otherwise even a true disciple like him would not be able to escape death. If devils killed her, then why did not they kill you? Luo Yifan did not believe her words. Luo Fangyi was stronger than Hua Menghan and was strong enough to deal with those devils and could easily kill several of them. But why did she die and Hua Menghan survived? Such a lie could only deceive a child. I don't know about that. Why doesn't Brother Luo go and ask those devils? Hua Menghan said in a calm tone. Hua Menghan, don't you think that our Luo clan cannot get you? I know that your backing is not small, but you better not mess with us. Luo Yifan gritted his teeth and said. He could not use brute force on her because when she had joined the main sect, he had been warned by his granduncle that he must never provoke Hua Menghan. That idiot Luo Tian didn't know about this and had dared to attack Hua Menghan on his sister's command, but fortunately he did not succeed, otherwise it would have endangered the safety of entire Luo clan. Chapter 155. Versus Luo Yifan. Luo clan was very much aggrieved because of this matter. How could Luo Tian be such a fool that he dared to lay hands on Hua Menghan? But fortunately he did not succeed. Although afterwards, Luo clan had to pay a lot just to subside this matter, but it was still better option than the destruction of the entire clan. However, Luo Tian had died and Luo clan wanted revenge badly. And though they could not lay hands on Hua Menghan, but they could crush that damned Yi Shiwen. You think you can protect Yi Shiwen? I'm going to kill him in front of you and let everyone know about the fate of those who dare to anger our Luo clan. Luo Yifan looked at Hua Menghan and said in a ferocious manner, I don't need others to protect me. Suddenly, a burst of leisurely voice came from a distance and gradually started to come nearer, and soon, a figure appeared in front of everyone. It was none other than Yi Shiwen, who was missing for almost a month. Seeing Yi Shiwen, Jing Yannan and other disciples who were familiar with Yi Shiwen exposed faint smiles on their faces, and they also saw that his cultivation had once again become very profound and immeasurably deep, totally unpredictable, and now, they could not even see through his cultivation level. Good, very good. Seeing Yi Shiwen, an intense killing intention appeared in the heart of Luo Yifan, and a cruel smile appeared on his face. Now that Yi Shiwen had appeared on his own accord, he made things easier for Luo Yifan. Luo Yifan did not even ask Yi Shiwen whether he was the one who killed the members of Luo clan, because at this time, the intention to kill was storming endlessly in his chest, and he needed to kill Yi Shiwen to alleviate this killing intention from his heart. In the world of martial arts, in order to lead a pious life and concentrate on achieving the higher realms, he must discard anger, joy and all other forms of emotions, because it was said that the existence of emotions could easily dominate one's sanity, but after meeting Yi Shiwen, he had become quite impulsive as if Yi Shiwen was his ultimate nemesis. Luo Yifan immediately calculated and knew that there was a strange relationship of hatred between him and Yi Shiwen. They were the true adversaries of each other, and he must kill his nemesis Yi Shiwen. If he did not kill Yi Shiwen, then later, he would not be able to lead a pious life, and the road to practice would also become very difficult. Don't you think there's something wrong with Yi Zaiwen's brain? He knows that Brother Luo wants to kill him, but he still dares to appear right in front of him. What can he do? Now the trial has ended, and if he does not appear, then that would be contrary to the rules of the sect. And by that time, Brother Luo can justifiably use force to deal with him. Yes, but I can see that Yi Shiwen looks very confident. Perhaps there is a degree of certainty in his action. I think he is trying to buy time until the elders and true disciples appear. At that time, it will be impossible for Brother Luo to kill him. Yi Shiwen, you should have waited to emerge later until the elders arrive, but now no one can save you from dying. Luo Yifan looked at Yi Shiwen and said. He was looking at Yi Shiwen as if he was looking at a dead man. It's too early to say that now. Yi Shiwen smiled coldly, then turned his face towards Hua Menghan, and slightly bowed to show his gratitude to her for not betraying him a moment ago. Yi Shiwen, you asked for it. This time I will so thoroughly kill you, that for eternity, you won't be able to ever reincarnate. Luo Yifan said and glared at Shiwen with his eyes filled with hatred. If that's the case, then why don't you try? Yi Shiwen indifferently said, and with a clang, he took out the long blade from the scabbard on his back. The Zhen Yuan was glowing above it, which suddenly turned into blade light and rushed towards Luo Yifan. Yi Shiwen had already reached the acme level of his blade technique, and now the power of the new moon beheader had gone far beyond his initial power. Perhaps now, his skill of cold moon beheader technique had already surpassed the skill of the creator itself. He had already reached the acme level of new moon beheader, which should allow chopping out 9 blade shadows, but at present, Yi Shiwen no longer rigidly adhered to the new moon beheader, and could readily chop out hundreds of thousands of blade lights. Luo Yifan was completely surrounded by the endless barrage of Yi Zaiwen's blade attack, and even if he casted an agility technique, he could not escape. Such an insignificant technique can only be used by an insect. I'll let you witness the might of a genuinely strong master. Luo Yifan sneered, and with a flick of his hand, a sword appeared in his hand, and he instantly struck his sword towards the blade shadows, spread throughout the sky. Quai. It could be said that this sword was simply unmatched, and in an instant, the speed of this sword attack had gone far beyond the speed of lightning. At this moment, it seemed as if the atmosphere had been stabbed and immediately punctured. However, the reaction of atmosphere was too slow. His sword had already cut through the atmosphere, but it exploded a moment later, which obviously showed the insane speed of this attack. Boom! This sword attack was extremely terrifying, and along with an unparalleled terrifying breath, it instantly punctured the blade shadows that were spread everywhere. Luo Yifan was a true master, and his experience related to his martial skills had already risen to a very profound level, to the very extreme, and with only a single glance, he immediately saw through the weakness of Yi Zaiwen's shadow blades, and under this sword attack, the blade light started to explode everywhere in the sky, and both attacks mutually obliterated each other. Endless explosions instantly sent shock waves in all directions. This was a collision between two horrifying forces, which caused even the space to distort. However, how could Yi Zaiwen's strength be so simple? In a flash, he chopped out his long blade and instantly used New Moon Beheader, and right after that, he chopped out a second time and maliciously unleashed Missing Moon Beheader, which was much more terrifying compared to the first blade attack, faster and much more precise. Almost at that moment, Luo Yifan felt a wave of murderous aura coming straight for him, and an amazing bladiki swept towards him from the air. A trace of surprise appeared on his face because he did not expect that Yi Shiwen would actually be able to attack back so quickly. And not just that, This blade technique clearly displayed a very level of understanding and comprehension, and also the conversion between various blade skills without the slightest stagnation between successive blade moves. How is this possible? Luo Yifan was somewhat baffled because he initially thought that this ant-like Yi Shiwen, who was merely a Xiantian-level warrior, would be split in half by his sword attack. Luo Yifan instantly struck his sword several times, and each of these strikes was inducing mad fluctuations of Lingqi in the atmosphere, and in a flash, the most brilliant sword light was issued towards Yi Shiwen. The space was immediately distorted and Yi Ziwen's figure was completely enveloped by the endless sword light. So fearful, Brother Luo is powerful indeed. This move is really too terrifying. It's just like the wrath of a god. With just one sword strike like this, even an entire mountain would be flattened. He is really worthy of being a true disciple. At once assumes an awe-inspiring pose and unleashes such a horrifying move. The disciples present in the surroundings suddenly exclaimed. The strength of this sword attack was terrifying and indeed worthy of being used by a true disciple. Xiantian realm and Truth realm were separated only by a layer, but according to the rumors, Yi Shiwen had massacred several masters of Xiantian Ninth Stage, Xiantian Great Realm, and even half-step Truth level. But everyone thought that Yi Shiwen would absolutely not be able to stop this horrifying move, used by a genuine true disciple. Even the masters of Truth level would find it difficult to deal with such an incomparably violent and horrifying attack. After all, swordsmen had always been well known for their strong attacks, let alone, Yi Shiwen was merely a Xiantian level expert. It seemed as if the whole world was coercing on Yi Shiwen. This was the so-called power and influence of the Truth realm that could mobilize the world Lingqi just like Zhenqi. Truth-level masters could easily manipulating the world Lingqi to crush Xiantian-level masters. Boom, boom, boom. Numerous huge air explosions occurred, setting off endless sandstorm that blew away everything and event swept away stones with it. The swordki spread quickly like the lightning, and formed dense clouds in the sky, like a giant net, and closed off all the escape routes for Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen had to admit that Luo Yifan was genuinely powerful. In that endless sea of swordki, Yi Ziwen's slim figure seemed like a small boat, swaying with the wind, and it seemed as if he would be submerged completely any second and get killed. Well, you can do only this much? Yi Shiwen stopped concealing his imposing aura and completely released it. A surge of terrifying aura went straight into the sky, and there were some of the world laws mixed in, clearly indicating that his terrifying imposing aura was comparable to the masters of Truth realm. What? How can Yi Shiwen possess such a terrifying imposing aura? It is actually comparable to the Truth realm, and is definitely not inferior to that of Brother Luo. How did the news never spread that he has already stepped into the Truth realm? If our sect has such a genius, then we should have already been informed about this, right? How is this possible? This is simply a miracle, a myth. He has recently joined the main sect, but he managed to become the chief of inner disciples, which was simply a miracle. And now he is comparable to the true disciples. This is simply a legend, a myth. If the news spread out, then it will certainly cause a sensation, and even the sect head will be alerted. There are certainly no limits to his future achievements. All of the disciples present there were very surprised, not to mention, Hua Menghan and the others who had already met Yi Shiwen once inside the Masha territory were even more surprised, as if they had just now witnessed a miracle, especially Hua Menghan. More than a year ago, when she had seen Yi Shiwen, he was only a Hotian-level warrior, but in just 1 year he grew so terrifyingly powerful. She just could not believe it. She is also a warrior and naturally knew that it was very tough to surmount Xiantian realm. Even a genius could not do it so easily. But Yi Shiwen did it in almost a year's time. It was said that Truth realm was a lifetime worth of goal for many disciples, but Yi Shiwen achieved it so easily. The more baffling was the fact that earlier, when Yi Shiwen killed Luo Fangyi, Hua Menghan and her friends had seen that Yi Ziwen's strength was actually comparable to the masters of half-step Truth realm. Suddenly, many people were giving dumbfounded looks to Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen shouted and chopped out his long blade, and once again, it seemed as if the blade shadows completely filled the entire world. Lingqi started to surge crazily and easily suppressed the sword light coming towards Yi Shiwen. Yi Ziwen's blade light directly crushed the sword light attack of Luo Yifan. One could see that in the face of blade light, the sword key seemed simply helpless. Chapter 156. Completely suppressed Tianyuan mirror was hidden in Yi Ziwen's body, and ordinary attacks simply could not hurt him, not to mention, his body had become incomparably tough after practicing tyrant body technique. Yi Shiwen could unscrupulously attack and sustain attacks as well, disregarding his own safety, but Luo Yifan could not be so unscrupulous like him. Although Luo Yifan's body was very strong, but not so abnormally formidable like Yi Shiwen, and the uniformly powerful attacks would be able to seriously wound him. Missing Moon Beheader. Yi Shiwen summoned the Missing Moon Beheader's blade intention, which congealed several blade diagrams in the sky that started to emit endless amount of blade light in the air, which ultimately condensed into a huge blade light, and all of a sudden, it went towards Luo Yifan. Very bright and brilliant blade light filled the entire atmosphere, and rushed through the air, drawing dazzling marks in the sky. Boom! Luo Yifan immediately struck his sword, which severely clashed with the blade light. And suddenly, the tremendous power present in the collision gave rise to mighty shock waves and a giant storm. Luo Yifan was blasted away and sent flying directly by the impact of this terrifying power. He spurted out a mouthful of blood. His body somersaulted several times in the midair, and severely fell down on the ground. How is this possible? Luo Yifan looked incredibly at Yi Shiwen. How could he be so formidable? Even if he just stepped into the truth realm, he should not be so powerful. After all, he himself had stepped into the truth realm almost a decade ago. How was he losing to a man who recently stepped into the truth realm? Monster. In the end, what kind of monster was he? How could he possibly be so formidable? Monster, you have certainly been possessed by a devil, I am sure about it. You must have ventured into the depths of Masha territory, and there, you have been possessed by the Devil Emperor, who wants to subvert my Yuan school. Luo Yifan suddenly shouted in aloud. How could he guess that Yi Shiwen actually possessed a mysterious space as a hidden weapon that helped him in comprehending the world laws quickly, and due to that he was able to achieve the fighting strength of a master of Truth Realm so fast. Although Luo Yifan stepped into the Truth Realm almost 10 years earlier, but Yi Shiwen had a mysterious space, and so long as he kept on burning spirit stones, and supplying Lingqi to the mysterious space unceasingly, his understanding would continue to rise exponentially. In the last few days, Yi Shiwen had almost completely burned his total stock of spirit stones, and only a mere 1,000 spirit stones remained in the stock. Thanks to that, his understanding had increased by leaps and bounds in the past few days, and right now his fighting strength was even more than that of Luo Yifan. Although at present, Yi Ziwen's fighting strength had not yet reached the peak of the first stage of Truth Realm, but it had already surpassed the fighting strength of Luo Yifan. Shua! As an answer to Luo Yifan's loud shout, accompanied by a sharp piercing sound, and displaying a magnificent brilliance in the sky, Yi Shiwen chopped out a terrifying blade light towards him. This time, Luo Yifan did not show his arrogance, and observed carefully without daring to take Yi Ziwen's attack head-on. And in a flash he leapt several dozen feet back to escape the range of this blade attack. Boom! The brilliant blade light pounded on the ground, directly resulting in a more than 10 meters wide and 5 or 6 meters deep crater. In the end, what is the background of this Yi Shiwen? I initially heard that he had beheaded Luofangi, which is surprising enough, and now, he is even suppressing a true disciple like Luo Yifan as if it's a child's play for him. He truly is a monster. Brother Luo's sword technique is considered as the strongest sword technique in the younger generation, but how is a newbie like Yi Shiwen oppressing him? I agree, this is just way too weird. At this strange scene, many of the spectating disciples secretly cursed in their hearts, but they seemed very amazed on the outside. He is simply a peerless genius, and his talent is so fearful. In such a short period of time, his cultivation enhanced to such an extent. This is the kind of talent which defies the heavens' will. In the future, perhaps, he will certainly enter the ranks of one of the 4 invincible disciples. Originally, everyone thought that if Luo Yifan attacked Yi Shiwen, then it would certainly cause his doom. The only way out left for him would be to buy time until the elders and true disciples arrived. otherwise escaping this disaster would be impossible for Yi Shiwen. However, now, even if Luo Yifan was trying his best and going all out, he was still being completely suppressed by Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen, I admit defeat and give up on this fight. I will investigate the matter about my sister's death once again. At this time, Luo Yifan surprisingly said this, but at the same time, a sly look flashed in his eyes. The always overbearing and rampant Luo Yifan had actually admitted defeat in front of so many disciples, and he was compelled to ascend into the sky after being forced into a corner by Yi Shiwen, and had nowhere left to escape. Yi Shiwen, we cannot let him escape. It is apparent from the look in his eyes that he is planning something to kill you. If you don't stop him now, he will have a respite and immediately come back to fight again. This man is strong but also has brains. If we let him escape, then it will later lead to a huge hassle. At this time, Yimo's voice suddenly echoed in Yi Ziwen's mind. Precisely, this is a very good opportunity, since he is the one who tried to intercept you first, so it's equally fair for you to use this as a good opportunity and excuse to settle the score with him, and no one can say anything. Yi Shiwen had a deadpan look on his face, but he directly chopped out his blade. He simply did not waste any time, as if Luo Yifan's words did not have any influence on him. Yi Shiwen was not a dumb person. He knew very well that Luo Yifan was trying to take advantage from this situation. So how could he possibly believe such nonsense? Yi Shiwen was chopping his long blade one after another, and rays of blade light scattered throughout the sky, as if the multicolored sunlight was dazzling the entire sky, and the terrifying blade attack rushed towards Luo Yifan. Luo Yifan was simply depressed to death in his heart. Who would have thought that he would be suppressed by the same ant-like individual he looked down upon? Since his debut in the world of martial arts, Luo Yifan had been classified as a genius until now, as far as growth rate was considered, and now, he was considered an invincible true disciple, and he undoubtedly possessed a tyrannical strength. He never paid attention to Yi Shiwen, and was quite indifferent about his strength, although Yi Shiwen might have killed Luo Fangyi as well as those other masters. But even so, he thought that a half-step truth-level master like Yi Shiwen could never be his opponent. Originally, he had always assumed that Yi Shiwen could never be his opponent, and could be readily crushed like an ant, but at this moment, this ant had compelled his arrogant head to be bowed down in submission. He did not know how Yi Shiwen had managed to enhance his cultivation so dramatically in such a short time, and his heart was completely filled with hatred at his current situation. Yi Shiwen, are you really not going to give face to our Luo clan? Luo Yifan shouted while fleeing away from Yi Shiwen. A truth-level master could flee extremely fast. His figure almost turned into a blur and instantly disappeared, leaving afterimages. He rushed towards the distant horizon, and his figure seemed to have left a trail of rainbow on the horizon. In any case, I have already offended, so might as well offend all the way to the very end. Yi Shiwen remained unmoved and said, if there was a possibility, he would like less trouble, of course. He was very much disgusted by Luo Yifan and other arrogant people, and he would certainly like to crush their arrogance. He was very much willing to teach a proper lesson to these rich shenanigans, who did not consider people as people, could betray in a blink of an eye, and could unreasonably take lives as if there was no value of human life in their eyes. No matter what you say using that glib tongue of yours, today, don't even expect to run away from me. All this time, you were searching for me to kill me. Now prepare yourself to face consequences. Yi Shiwen said, and a cold look appeared on his face. His speed was not slow either, and he released several blade attacks towards escaping Luo Yifan. The blade light pierced through the sky just like a meteor, across the mountains, and went straight towards Luo Yifan as if chasing after him, while a few blade lights branched off and blocked all of his escape routes. Luo Yifan suddenly roared repeatedly, Yao Jiuzhou sword, execute this evil monster. In the hand of Luo Yifan, the sword was suddenly enveloped in endless amount of Zhen Yuan, and it seemed like his whole body had been integrated together with his sword. This was man-sword unification, which instantly broke open an endless void, and went towards the blade light. Luo Yifan had already exhausted all his efforts, so he resorted to using his best shot and took direct incarnation of the sword, which seemed to have split the sky and severely collided with the blade light. Boom! An endless blast instantly engulfed the entire space, and the surrounding space seemed just like the rippling surface of water, while the Lingqi also started to shake violently in the atmosphere. Shabu! 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 Yi Shiwen continued chopping his long blade nonstop, one after another, and each time, it seemed as if the whole world would be chopped down into pieces. Yi Shiwen, today you will die. Luo Yifan's eyes were bloodshot, and his hand holding the sword had also turned bloody as he recklessly hacked his sword. The blade light released by Yi Shiwen was hacked and directly scattered in the form of world Lingqi throughout the atmosphere. From afar, Luo Yifan looked like a scarlet ancient killing god who had come to hack down and exterminate the heaven itself. Luo Yifan continued to indiscriminately hack down and scatter the blade lights released by Yi Shiwen. Whenever he would unleash his sword attack, it seemed as if the whole world would be hacked down and shattered, while a long scarlet sword key rushed through the sky, which seemed to directly split the world into two halves. A cold look appeared on Yi Ziwen's face, and he instantly chopped out his long blade. A golden light shone and an incomparably horrifying and fluctuating bladiki instantly congealed and suddenly rushed forward, as if penetrating through the world itself. Boom! The two attacks fiercely collided, and a huge explosion occurred. And its incredible might instantly caused powerful storms of Lingqi, which swept across everything along with it. In the endless turmoil of Lingqi storm, a figure was blasted away and was sent flying due to the explosion. It was Luo Yifan who could not withstand the terrifying might of this explosion, and was directly sent flying. However, in the next instant, Yi Shiwen had actually arrived in front of him, and then rushed ahead of him. How could he be such a tough opponent? Luo Yifan never thought that Yi Shiwen would actually turn out to be such a tough opponent. Luo Yifan's sword key swayed and firmly covered his body in order to protect him, and not allow Yi Shiwen to come close. Both attacks collided in the sky and caused a massive explosion. The sword key and bladiki started to run amok and wantonly rampaging the surrounding area. The disciples watching from below immediately had to prop up Jin Yuan in order to protect themselves, so as to avoid getting accidentally injured. After all, prevention was obviously better than cure. Yi Shiwen sneered, but he knew that as the time was passing, Luo Yifan was also falling under the wind gradually. Several small and large wounds had appeared on the body of Luo Yifan, although he was trying his best to defend, but he was still being cut and injured non-stop by Yi Shiwen. Just when Yi Shiwen was planning to give him a fatal blow, suddenly, a burst of loud shout echoed in the sky. Stop! A horrifying giant hand descended from the sky, grasped both the blade light and sword key and instantly destroyed them. Chapter 157, War of Words. Stop! A horrifying giant hand descended from the sky, grasped both the blade light and sword key and instantly destroyed them. Those extremely sharp and terrifying attacks were directly grasped in that big hand, and were extinguished without a trace. There simply was no room for any resistance, and both attacks were immediately obliterated after getting caught. What are you two trying to do? A rainbow appeared in the distant sky, and in a flash, an old man in black clothes came flying and stopped in front of the two men. Elder Jing Xian, this Yi Shiwen has been possessed by the Devil Emperor in the depths of Masha territory, and is basically a devil. Luo Yifan hastily said. Ah. Elder Jing Xian looked at Yi Shiwen, and said in a cold voice. Yi Shiwen looked at that Elder Jing Xian and narrowed his eyes, while at this time, Yi Mo's voice echoed in his mind. Yi Shiwen, you have to be careful of this old man. I had discovered that he was hiding in a distant place, and did not come out. Before I only considered him as the elder who protects the disciples, but when Luo Yifan was trying to bully you a moment ago, he did not come out, and now that you have an upper hand he came out. I think he has some ill intentions. Yi Shiwen secretly nodded in his heart, and there was quite a bad look in the eyes of this elder Jing Xian. He definitely had ill intentions, and was planning to do something bad in the future. Why don't you speak? The elder Jing Xian asked in a cold voice. What do I need to say? Yi Shiwen indifferently said. Elder Jing Xian, he has nothing to say, he is certainly the spy of those devils. Luo Yifan stubbornly stared at Yi Shiwen with a pernicious look in his eyes. I also think that he looks very suspicious. Look how I use my soul surgery technique to search your soul and uncover all your secrets. Elder Jing Xian said about the vicious method of soul surgery technique, which was extremely malicious and was so deadly that it was rarely used to interrogate prisoners, unless the prisoner was already condemned, or it was directly used on the caught devil masters, because after the soul surgery technique was used, the entire soul would collapse. It was said that the person would go crazy or turn into a fool or directly die. When Luo Yifan heard this, he grinned fiendishly, because soon, Yi Shiwen was going to die. There was a faint thrill and pleasant sensation in his heart. Who do you think you are? You actually dared to even think about searching my soul. Yi Shiwen coldly stared at that elder Jing Xian. Although he knew deep in his heart that this elder Jing Xian should be a lot stronger than him. But he was not scared even the slightest. I am now comparable to the Truth Realm Masters and soon going to get promoted as an authentic true disciple. You're just an elder and share position with me quite a bit, however, you dare to treat me like a devil spy and even mention searching my soul. You are really quite audacious. The complexion of elder Jing Xian stayed unchanged. He knew that Yi Shiwen was aware of the truth, but this time, he was already determined that he would not let him off, otherwise a peerless genius like him would become a potential threat in the future. Yi Shiwen must never be allowed to grow, or he might bring a disaster upon him. Well, you have quite a razor-sharp mouth, kid. Elder Jing Xian sneered and said, It does not matter even if you have a glib tongue, it will be of no use today because this old man will definitely search your soul. After saying this, Elder Jing Xian congealed a big hand which was made up of world lingqi, and directly slammed towards Yi Shiwen. Chua! A dazzling blade light flashed, and a shaking bladiki was instantly chopped out. Yi Shiwen definitely was not the kind of person who would sit still, and now that he knew that other party had ill intentions and wanted to kill him, it was even more impossible for him to place his own destiny in the hands of others. Boom! This long bladiki was certainly dazzling, just like the stars in a starry sky, and then, it fiercely fell towards that big gasified hand and collided. The gasified big hand was instantly split open, and an endless amount of lingqi dispersed wantonly in the atmosphere. Old guy, I will sue you in front of the Elders' Council and make you die without a burial ground. Yi Shiwen shouted. If he was just an inner disciple then no one would bother listening to him, but at present he was comparable to the true disciples, though his inner state had not yet stepped into the truth realm, but he possessed the strength of truth realm. So what was the difference between him and other true disciples? The elder Jing Xian did not plan to stop. Instead he started to put an even greater intensity in his attacks in order to directly kill Yi Shiwen. Stop! A loud shout came from the sky and a sharp sword key fell directly from the sky and instantly eliminated the attack of elder Jing Xian. Everyone looked up and saw that Lin Zhantian was flying down leaving a trail of rainbow in the sky and started slowly descending from the clouds, and said to Jing Xian, Brother Jing Xian, brother, what made you attack a disciple? Lin Zhantian was slowly coming more and more near. At this time, Jing Xian suddenly cursed in his heart at the unexpected appearance of Lin Zhantian, but he did not continue to attack Yi Shiwen, because now that Lin Zhantian was here, he knew that he could definitely not make a misstep. Brother Lin, I suspect that he has been possessed by a devil and is actually their spy. Jing Xian answered. Do you have evidence? Lin Zhantian said. Of course, in such a short time, this Yi Ziwen's cultivation has actually enhanced by a great deal. Now, he is actually comparable to the true disciples. This is really very suspicious and a strong reason to suspect that he is a spy of devils. At this time, Luo Yifan said in a loud voice. This is such a bullshit reason. Well, I can say the same about you. I can easily suspect that the dog and pig-like people of Luo clan, who are actually able to occupy high positions and are able to practice to such great extent, are certainly possessed by the devils, maybe colluding together with them in order to subvert the rule of Yiyuan school. Yi Shiwen sneered and said, You are courting death. Luo Yifan shouted, and it seemed as if he would once again start fighting with Yi Shiwen. It just so happens, you just now tried to kill me to settle my old accounts with Luo clan, and I'd like to see how the Elders' Council intends to say about this matter, which considers the life and death of a truth-level disciple. Your Luo clan intended to intercept and kill me in the Masha territory, so Luo clan will have to give a proper explanation. Yi Shiwen smiled and said in a cold voice. He knew that reasoning was sometimes very important, but sometimes, it was not worth mentioning. If Yi Shiwen had been killed here, why would Luo Yifan give explanation to anyone? It was not important. Nobody would bother about a dead man, an inner disciple, and try to mess with Luo clan. But now, since Yi Shiwen did not die, the situation was completely different. Elder Council was basically the ruling place, because of the presence of sect head, Tongshen Elder and the leaders of various peaks in the sect. Many high-level experts would basically enter the depths of space and time and stay there all year round, and would not easily come out. Therefore the lower-level elders were made responsible for handling matters in their absence. Of course, Elder Council was only alerted when the matter involved elders or true disciples. Although right now, Yi Shiwen was not a true disciple, but his fighting strength was comparable to a truth-level master. And this was a sufficient reason to alert the Elders' Council. Luo Yifan's complexion suddenly turned unsightly. If it was before that Yi Shiwen had dared to speak in front of him, he would have crushed him with just a slap, but now was not the same. Yi Ziwen's strength increased by leaps and bounds, to an extent that even he did not know the upper limit of his strength. He could not beat Yi Shiwen. Neither could he talk back. All he was doing was giving a cold look to Yi Shiwen. Well, you dare to frequently shout in front of me. He is really a devil, and is definitely under the control of a devil. Elder Jing Xian shouted. The disciples standing in the surroundings were also hearing their conversation. Immediately, several doubts appeared in their hearts. It was no wonder. After all, Yi Ziwen's strength increased way too fast, far more than the fastest point they could ever imagine. After Masha territory trial finished, his strength actually exceeded that of all core disciples. And even a true disciple like Luo Yifan was not his match anymore. They had seen with their own eyes that even a true disciple like Luo Yifan had been completely cornered by Yi Shiwen. And if Elder Jing Xian had not interfered, then perhaps things would have been very dangerous for Luo Yifan. Yi Shiwen even had the audacity to actually challenge a supermaster like Jing Xian, who was actually at the third stage of Truth Realm. Was he really possessed by a devil? Elder Jing Xian, this matter of being controlled by the devil cannot be taken lightly, and we must avoid hasty judgment. If according to what you said, Luo Yifan actually tried to intercept and kill the peerless genius of our Yuan school on the spot, I think he was able to do such a lunatic thing because it is actually him who is under the control of devils. Lin Juntian lightly said, but it was actually in an undeniable tone. How can you say that? Luo Yifan has performed many merits in our Yuan school. How can he possibly be a devil spy? Elder Jing Xian gritted his teeth and said he certainly knew that their so-called evidence was simply irrational, but he never thought that Lin Juntian would actually not give him face and would so easily debunk this affair. Today's matter is not over yet. It won't end until your Luo clan gives me an explanation about their actions. Yi Shiwen sneered and said, if there was a mistake, it was the mistake of the situation itself. Elder Jing Xian finally said in a somewhat relaxed manner. He knew that once this matter went too far and reached the ears of the Elders' Council, it would mean a lot of trouble because those old guys held major power in the sect. Then in accordance to what you say, I can also kill him when I get an opportunity, and when asked for an explanation, I can say that it's not my mistake, it's the mistake of the situation itself. Yi Shiwen said in an unforgiving manner. You do not change the subject. Now you want others to give an explanation. Why don't you explain how your cultivation suddenly increased by leaps and bounds, and that too so fast? Elder Jing Xian clamored and did not allow Yi Shiwen to change the subject, but he himself managed to change the subject from Luo Yifan to Yi Shiwen, by asking about the reason behind his bizarre cultivation growth. Why do I need to explain it to you? Who do you think you are? To me, you are no different than a pig who cannot understand my practice speed. Yi Shiwen rambled and simply wasn't afraid of him, because he knew that a Yuan school was not going to pursue this matter. Even those true disciples and elders kept many secrets from their fortuitous encounters and adventures. So long as they did not harm the integrity of the sect, Yuan school would not try to investigate into their secrets. Brother Jing Xian, this matter is not something you and I can solve. Luo Yifan tried to intercept Yi Shiwen, and he'll report this to the Elder Council. Even if Yi Shiwen also falls under suspicion, the Elder Council will pass the final judgment. You must know that it simply does not fall under your jurisdiction. Lin Zhentian said in a cold voice. Chapter 158. Qingfeng Mountain's Origins. Brother Jing Xian, this matter is not something you and I can solve. Luo Yifan tried to intercept Yi Shiwen, and he'll report this to the Elder Council. Even if Yi Shiwen also falls under suspicion, the Elder Council will pass the final judgment. You must know that it simply does not fall under your jurisdiction. Lin Zhentian said in a cold voice. It is time that people come to know that they cannot bully the people of our Qingfeng Mountain vein. Let's go. Lin Zhentian said to Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen did not hesitate and followed Lin Zhentian. And in a flash, both of them disappeared into the horizon. Luo Yifan looked at their leaving figures and his face immediately flushed with anger. He had never hated someone so much in his entire life. He determined in his heart that Yi Shiwen must be cut to pieces. Standing on one side, the complexion on Elder Jing Xian's face did not look good. He was contemplating countermeasures because if this matter was referred to the Elders' Council, then things would no longer be so simple in the end. Yi Shiwen was flying behind Lin Zhentian, and in a while they soon crossed a very far distance. Yi Shiwen, you really have my admiration. Lin Zhentian said. Yi Shiwen smiled. A rare embarrassed look appeared on his face. Lin Zhentian was his elder, and seemed to have a great relationship with his father. And not just that, he had repeatedly saved him on several occasions, so Yi Shiwen felt very relaxed in front of him. Yi Shiwen was not as reserved in front of him as he used to be in front of others. Not to mention, Lin Zhentian had saved him many times. I do not think so. Yi Shiwen said in a polite manner, but this was obviously not true. He knew very well that both his cultivation and strength had reached a terrifying level during the time he spent in Masha territory, which far exceeded his own expectations. Although he had not yet set foot into the truth realm, but it was only a matter of time, he believed that he would be able to achieve it very soon. Your father had told me earlier that you suddenly got enlightenment one day, but I did not think that your cultivation will reach all the way to the truth realm in such a short time. Lin Zhentian said with a smile. There are rumors that ancient experts used to suddenly get enlightenment and their cultivation soared instantly. Previously I considered those rumors as myths and legends, but now after seeing you, I have to come to believe that maybe people like that actually existed? Yi Shiwen smiled but did not speak, because he knew that it was not the result of enlightenment. It was actually the mysterious space in his mind that was actually the root cause behind his cultivation increasing by leaps and bounds. But when his father had asked him, he casually said that it was due to the enlightenment, and it became the best excuse to cover up his secret, because enlightenment was actually a very difficult to explain or understand. There were a lot of unexplainable things in this world, and gaining enlightenment was a way to open the door to understand these things, but it was very hard to achieve. You are very fortunate and you must cherish it. Lin Zhentian said, but in spite of your peerless talent, so long as you think that you are doing the right thing and want help from this old guy, remember I am still alive and would certainly lend a hand. I can also provide shelter to a junior like you if you are ever in danger. Yi Shiwen smiled. Lin Zhentian was a talent from over 100 years ago, and as a true master his life was only just starting. Comparing with the lifespan of an ordinary human, he was just like a 20-years-old guy. However, Lin Zhentian was a 100-year-old genius, and was actually able to reach the peak of third stage of Truth Realm. It could be said that this was a very high achievement. As far as Yi Ziwen's perception of cultivation level was concerned, now that his fighting strength increased dramatically and reached all the way to the Truth Realm, the cultivation level of other people no longer appeared blurred to him, as it used to be in the past. Truth level masters were very enigmatic, and it was difficult to ascertain their strengths, but now their strength or cultivation level no longer looked so unfathomable to Yi Shiwen. Previously, Yi Shiwen always thought that the ancestor of Qingfeng Mountain Subschool, Lin Zhentian, was a Xiantian level master, and must be at the peak of Xiantian 9th stage, but this time he was able to completely understand that he was actually a truth level master, In fact, he was at the peak of truth third stage and was much stronger than Elder Jing Xian. So when Elder Jing Xian had seen Lin Zhantian coming, he tactfully decided to pull back his hands because he knew that he was not a match of Lin Zhantian. During this time, you have developed a lot. Lin Zhantian was talking about the time period during which Yi Shiwen had come to the main sect and continued to cause uproars throughout the sect. As the youngest son of an old friend, he was very concerned about him, not to mention, he also wanted that Yi Shiwen must focus on practice. As long as you show enough potential and perform enough merits for the sect, Luo clan won't be able to touch you. Yi Shiwen nodded. He also knew that according to the notion of Yuan school, the most important thing was talent and ability, as well as strength. Wasn't this so-called Luo clan running amok because of its strength? Similarly, if Yi Shiwen displayed exceptional strength and enough talent, then the sect would have admiration for him. At that time, Luo clan would naturally not be so reckless. It is my fault that I did not make things clear in the beginning. I did not expect that your strength would increase so fast that you would actually achieve the strength of Truth Realm. Lin Zhantian said, although our Qingfeng mountain veins are not very strong, but it has some influence, and the founder of our Qingfeng mountain vein is among the group of Taishang elders. Yi Shiwen was surprised a moment. He did not expect that the founder of Qingfeng mountain subschool was actually a Taishang elder. This was far beyond his expectation. One must know that there were very few Taishang elders in Yuan schools, and not many of the subschool were founded by Taishang elders. Except the 3 major subschool, there were only 5 or 6 subschools, founded by a Taishang elder, and without exception, all of these subschools were considered the most formidable. Among all of the subschools, the Qingfeng Mountain subschool could only be regarded as a medium-level subschool among so many subschools. So Yi Shiwen never thought that a medium-level subschool had actually been founded by a Taishang elder. However, if Qingfeng Mountain did not have the strong backing of Yuan school, then how they could even secure blood yuan fruit and other material treasures? They would already have been robbed long ago. Teacher ancestor, His Holiness, is very satisfied from your performance. Lin Zhantian said, all these years, the arrogance of the people of Luo clan has really crossed the limit and gone too far. They dragged you in such a situation. Not to mention, you are not at wrong and your actions are supported by right reasons. If people of Luo clan are not affable, then our Qingfeng mountain vein is not soft persimmon either. Lin Zhantian lightly said, but his tone was unquestionably overbearing, justifying the influence of Qingfeng mountain vein. Not to mention, it was obvious from Lin Zhantian's explanation that Qingfeng mountain vein would never allow others to hurt their disciple. Yuan school was like a crisscross of an organization and had several factions. A faction was also an organization with its own set of disciples. And these disciples also belonged to top 10 peaks. Then they had relationships with their respective subschools as well, and so on. Yi Shiwen was the star of Qingfeng Mountain, even if he now belonged to the main sect, but it would never change the fact that he came from Qingfeng Mountain subschool. He was a disciple of main sect. But he was also a disciple of Qingfeng Mountain subschool. He enjoyed the blessings of the seniors of Qingfeng Mountain, but also must take the responsibility to look after the later generations. There were all kinds of complicated relations, and if one wanted to become a leader, one would have to spend a lot of time sorting out these relationships, regulating conflicts between these factions, and in the future, Yi Shiwen did not want to spend most of his time sorting out these problems and relationships. Before, I also wanted to let you grow freely, so I did not bring you with me to meet him. But now I think, you can go ahead and make a contact in advance. I will take you to meet the founder. Lin Zhantian said. You must be very surprised knowing about the semblance of our vein, right? Lin Zhantian read the surprised look on Yi Ziwen's face, and seemed to have guessed what he was thinking at the moment. He somewhat sighed with emotion. In the past, he had a similar surprised reaction like Yi Shiwen when he had come to know about the true strength of Qingfeng mountain vein. There were a lot of people in Yuan school who did not know about this secret. Our vein is rather special. It's not the same as the other one, because we are relatively low-key compared to them. Lin Zhantian laughed and said, so people outside do not know that we are in this vein. Even the disciples of our own Qingfeng mountain vein do not anything about this secret vein. because only those who have reached the truth realm are considered the members of this secret vein. But most of these truth-level members are in the depths of space and time and practicing. They don't come out much often. In fact, the founder of our vein was actually the closing disciple of the patriarch of Yuan school. When he got old, he handed his legacies down to his closing disciple. This continued for generations, but we have always been relatively low-key, slowly working in the shadows. Lin Zhantian said. Seeing the confused look on Yi Ziwen's face, Lin Zhantian began to tell Yi Shiwen about the origin of this vein. The founder of Qingfeng Mountain Vein was actually the youngest closing disciple of Yuan school's patriarch, who was already reaching the final years of his life. After his skill enhanced, he left Yuan school and went out. Actually, at that time, the governance of Yuan school was in the hands of the other senior closing disciples of the patriarch. The 10 great disciples had firmly grasped full control over the entire Yuan school, and did not want to welcome him. After all, if he joined then it would certainly disrupt the existing equilibrium of power, and they did not want that to happen. Qingfeng Mountain Vein's founder was not willing to start a conflict with his fellow brothers, and also had no interest in the struggle for power, so he left the main sect and went to the Qingfeng Mountain, where he established the Qingfeng Mountain Vein, and handed down all his techniques and legacies, taught by the patriarch of Yuan school himself. And it now existed as the branch of Yuan school till present. Yi Shiwen also came to understand the reason that Qingfeng Mountain Vein maintained a low-key, because of the other 10 main veins, because they would be scared that Qingfeng Mountain Vein would become extremely strong and might take away their share. So this was for the best of all. However, Yi Shiwen finally understood that no wonder there were so many similarities between Qingfeng Mountain Sub-School and Yuan School's main sect. And it was also able to monopolize a treasure like Blood Yuan fruit for so many years. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.